Everybody got a podcast. Everybody is a critic, but nobody will admit it. Everybody going live now. Everybody want it right now. Click the link up in the bio. Everybody got a new line. Everybody is offended. Give a fuck in your opinion. Everybody got a...
What up? Welcome to Bob and Doug Savior from Boredom. Well, it's going good, man. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we never did do like an intro. So I'm in the streaming mode where I do intros to everything, and it just occurred to me like Bob and Doug Savior from Boredom. It always started with you and I just in the middle of a sentence.
Absolutely, every time.
Well, I fucked up, so I apologize.
It's all good.
But it's the first episode we've done in 3 years. The last episode you and I did was December 2nd, 2021. Welcome back. How you been, man?
Well, I've almost died a few times as have you, and yeah, pretty good.
Same, dude. Same. You and I both almost died. How wild. Leaping Tiger won. Motherfucker, what? What's up, Leaping Tiger? We got people in the YouTube chat. I'm trying to bring up the chat from Twitter, too, so I have that going. That's the other thing, too, since you start streaming that. It's like you don't realize, like, the audience interaction until you actually open up chat and shit.
Yeah, I can't see any of that, so...
Well, if you go to our YouTube channel and open up the video, like you can actually, there's a thing that says pop out live chat, and you can just pop out and see who's chatting. Same with the Twitter feed. But welcome everybody, Bob and Doug Savior from Boredom. Bob, how you been? It's been 3 years, man.
I've been good, man. I've been good. I've lost a few teeth since then, but everything's going pretty well.
Well, at least you don't lose your hair completely. If anything, it got longer.
Yeah, I cut it about a month ago.
It got very white, dude. If you're not volunteering, like you're a conundrum because you do have like a temperate side, but you also have a big heart. If you're not taking your look to its full advantage and volunteering as Santa at like shelters and orphanages and shit during this time of year, I don't know what you're doing, but you are perfect for Santa. There you go, Peaky Blinder Santa.
Yeah. I have a multitude of hats, and I have been offered a job doing that gig, but having one kid is enough, and I don't think I could handle all the sickness that would come my way.
Dude, I forgot what I was going to say. Shit. Your kid, how old's your kid now?
She's about to be 14.
Holy moly, teenager.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, what, 3-4 more years of school and then she's out?
Yeah, she's about to start high school next year.
Now, is she going to, I don't mean to talk about your personal life or anything like that. I'm just out of morbid curiosity as somebody who worked for the Lee County School District. Is she going to a Lee County school or is she going to a charter school?
She's in Gateway Charter, and it's awful.
Really?
When
I left Florida, everybody I knew with kids were putting them in charter schools, and I remember Gateway. If I'm not mistaken, that's down by the Red Sox Stadium by the airport.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's bad now, huh?
It's just overcrowded. It's insane. They
imagine
built a whole new building. It doesn't matter. There's just too many people.
I imagine that section of Florida has gotten a severe influx of population since I've left.
Well, some quick research on my end. The year I graduated high school, Lee County had 350,000 people. Okay. Lee County now has 1 million people.
That's a lot of people.
Tripled, man. And it's not slowing down. At the height of COVID, people were moving in at 90 people a day to Fort Myers.
In fairness, Fort Myers is a pretty awesome place. If you give it a chance and you find the right people and the right work, it can be an amazing place. I haven't been there in 7 years, so I couldn't say like the cost of living, but it wasn't cheap when I lived there.
You couldn't afford it now, dude. So the average 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment here ranges between $1,700 and $2,300 a month.
Do they think they're living in New York City? That's insane.
We actually passed Miami at one point for the highest place in Florida.
What's gas per gallon there in Lee County?
What did I pay this morning? $3.13.
Wow, we're actually under. We've been for the last year. Knock on wood. We've been under the $3 mark.
I haven't seen under $3 in over 2 years.
We had, I think 293 was the highest I saw in the last 2 weeks, and then the lowest was 271. And that's
that'd be great.
It's wild because I love living here. I mean, I'm planning a trip back to Florida in the summer. John and I've talked about it. Paul and I've talked about it. John actually offered to fly Paul and I down, and I talked to Paul about it 2 days ago on our way to Christmas lunch. And I said, "You still want to go to Florida?" He's like, "I can't afford it." Because Paul lost his job. He started a new thing, which is taking off, but he can't really afford to do it. He's like, I can't afford to do it. And I said, dude, your whole business model now is your eBay store and your YouTube channel. I'm like, think of all that, because what he does is he drives all over to going to thrift stores, buying stuff for dirt cheap, and then he cleans it up and sells it for way more than what he paid for it. And he's doing pretty well at it. Like we lived in Florida, Paul. Think of all the thrift stores in Arcadia alone that we could hit.
Oh yeah.
He's like, yeah, but how are we going to bring it back? And I'm like, fuck flying. I'm like, you and I split it down half the middle. Because we had a guest on the show who lives in Hollywood, Florida, Black Mark. Mark is fucking dope. Mark reminds me a little bit of Justin mixed with a little bit of Paul, because he was in the Navy. Big, tall, black dude, cool as fuck, loves to get stoned, loves to talk about music and movies and shit. Just a great dude. And he clued us in the last time he was on that, like, Uber now does car rental services that's cheaper than renting it from car services. So I told Paul, I'm like, let's split it down the middle. We'll look into Uber car rental, get ourselves a van or whatever, and just take a fucking road trip. We can film content for the show. You can thrift store. We can go and hit. Not only can we see Bob, John, and everybody that we miss in Fort Myers, we can go and meet all of our friends that have been on the show and through Twitter and that live in Florida, because we have like 4 or 5 people that we've met who live all throughout Florida. And I'm like, I would love to just
from here to your place is one of my favorite drives ever.
Where are you living at now? Are you still in South Fort Myers?
Yeah. No, I'm right on Tree Line.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah. So you're not that far away at all. I love that area.
It takes me 10 minutes to get to the airport. And then when Coheed's coming here to Tico Arena, it'll take me 10 minutes to get to the show.
That's nice.
That'll be my daughter's first show. Coheed Mastodon and Periphery.
My buddy Taylor Hoots, who reached out to me actually a week before Christmas break, he's a teacher with the place I used to work at. He was the one right before the pandemic hit. We got tickets to go see Faith No More, Korn, and Helmet. And, he's always like going to shows and shit. We both kind of like bonded over our love of like Mastodon and metal music and stuff. And he reached out to me a week before Christmas break, and he's like, dude, I'm getting tickets for Coheed and Mastodon. They're coming to Milwaukee. Do you want to go? And I'm like, it all depends on when the show is, how much the tickets are, and if you're driving. If you're driving, I'll chip in for gas. If the tickets are reasonable, I'll buy one. And if it's during a time where I'm not like scheduled to work, I'm in, dude. Like, I will go to Milwaukee. That's a 4-hour drive for me. I'll be happy to watch. Like, I've seen Coheed live. I'd love to see Coheed again. I would love to see Mastodon.
Obviously, I've seen Coheed. I don't even know how many times at this point, and I look forward.
Well, you're friends with them.
Yeah, but I'm looking really forward to Periphery. I don't know how well my daughter will handle Periphery, but she's not great with super loud sounds, so it'll be an interesting day.
I get that. Is she not? She's not been to any concerts whatsoever before, or
I was gonna take her to Buckethead this year, and then
why?
She said, "Oh, I don't want to go," and then it was too late. And then tickets went through the roof. Like, it sold out immediately because he doesn't tour very often.
I feel pretty fortunate in my life to where, like, and I'm not going to speak for you. I would imagine so, but like, I feel like I've gotten to see damn near every band that I've ever wanted to see, with the exception of a handful. Faith No More was the big crush for me. Like, I really wanted to see those guys live more than anything, and I'm still holding out hope. Thankfully, somebody I met on Twitter, Amanda 5x5, met Paul and me, and like she reached out to me and she's like, you and I have a lot of similar music tastes and shit. She's like, you love Faith No More? I'm like, I love Faith No More. She sent me this autographed Faith No More placard that she's worked in the movie industry and in the music biz. So she sent me like these massive boxes of these FedEx boxes with like an autograph of Faith No More, autograph of Space Ghost Coast to Coast, and then she sent me this replica Belial from Basket Case.
Tell me about that.
Dude, this thing, I mean, it's hard to see it on camera now, but like, he's become my mascot, dude. I dress him up for the holidays and shit. It's one of the coolest things I own. And it's from a special effects artist that she's friends with who did this for her. And she's like, It's collecting dust in my place. I think you'd appreciate it. And sure as shit, like, I think everybody that's been on our show, like, wants to send stuff to me because I literally have just turned my entire little studio space into like my shrine of nerddom. So it's pretty cool.
No, I get that. Yeah, man, I'm trying to think. There's maybe 5 bands left that I want to see that I haven't seen.
Lay them on me. I want to hear them.
I want to see Florence and the Machine. I would pay ridiculous money to see Florence live. God.
I'm bringing back fast.
I would love to. I would love to see Francis Doom live. I've been trying to talk him into coming down to play Nice Guys. Man, the number is getting smaller and smaller as I get older because I've seen mostly everyone that I care to see. I'd like to see Night Versus. The Cure. I got into The Cure way hard, way too late. Like I won the lottery to go see them last year, and I was like, 2 years ago, and I was like, somebody who enjoys them much more than me needs to go.
I know John's going recently.
Yeah, I was supposed to go to that show, and then I was like, and in the last year, I totally fell into The Cure like hard.
It's not hard to do. They're a great band, dude.
And that last album, I love that album. But
I do too.
They were my top artist of the year last year.
Cure is a phenomenal band that I've loved since I was a kid, dude. Like, you could argue, like, yeah, all they do is make gloomy music, but they do it so fucking well, man.
That's the thing. Like,
well, Wish wasn't a gloomy album. Wish was kind of.
You met me right after high school, and I was insufferable then. Can you imagine how depressed I would have been had I been listening to The Cure all through high school? Fuck me, man. I would have been just eyeliner and sad all the time.
And I lucked out because when I moved to Fort Myers, like I was into The Cure, but then I quickly got into like Smashing Pumpkins, 9 Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, and I had that aggressive. Yeah, I haven't seen 9 Inch Nails. I've seen Marilyn Manson. I would like to see Marilyn. Honestly, I would like to see Marilyn Manson now that he's like lost all the weight. He's on like this like revival tour. I really kind of dig the last album. Dude, I'd be lying. So you and I haven't talked in 3 years, but the last time we talked is when I started getting healthier again and started like working out and shit. And I've maintained that over the last 4 years, but I only do it in the spring and the summer. In the fall up here, it gets so cold that, as you can see on my nose, my face breaks out and gets dry and raw and red, and so it's just pointless for me to go out and do it. And I pack on the weight, but shit. Losing my train of thought already. Damn it. This happens all the time. Ozempic. I'd be lying. Don't get me wrong. Like once I get to the groove of working out and starting to like shed a few pounds, that first month in the spring, I feel really good. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I'd be lying if I said, dude, if my doctor said, hey, you qualify, I'd want to try it, man. Like it's insane. I can't imagine it's got great long-term benefits for you, but seeing how many people like what it does.
If you're diabetic, sure, but if you're not, it can be it can cause massive blood clots and shit. Like I spoke to my doctor about it, and he's like, "Look, man, you're in a precarious situation. Having had a heart attack, you're on blood thinners. You can't take anything that could cause a clot." And he's like, even like if I wanted to try testosterone replacement therapy, because I thought about getting my test tested, he's like, dude, you can't take those shots because of your heart. It's just not something you can do. He's like, I as a physician would not feel okay giving that to you.
Smart. It's smart. That's not even something I thought of. I mean, it makes sense.
He's like, dude, your heart, you've got 3 stents in that thing.
I thought about testosterone about a year and a half ago. I'm not a sucker. At one point I was, but now like I have to like be in the mood to really want to crank one out. And there was a part where there was a period where like I thought like I was fucked up and I needed testosterone. Like maybe my levels are low, and I got tested for it. And they're like, "No, your testosterone's fine." I'm like, "It doesn't feel fine. It feels like I'm." It feels like I'm.
It's called getting older, dude. I mean, it's just part of being older.
Oh, I know. It sucks, dude. It was like watching John Cena show up at WrestleMania last year and thinking, "Oh my God, this guy is who I could be if I just put in the effort." And then he turned around and you could see his balding pattern in the back of his head, and I was like, nah, we're all old.
Yep.
Even the cool ones.
It's just a reality. I mean,
it sucks because up here, I still feel like we're in our 20s.
Oh,
mentally,
absolutely.
I feel like I'm a kid still.
Once I lost all my weight and then started getting hurt, and after like 5 different surgeries, I put it back on. And like I said, a lot of it was due to being scared, because I was told if you rupture your bicep again, it can't be fixed. And that's a scary thought to deal with, because it was horribly painful.
Oh, I get
it. Especially the second time. The second time was fucking awful.
Fear can be a powerful motivator and deterrent.
So for me, you know me. Like, when I say I'm going to do something, I have to go all in. I don't know how to do things halfway. So to go back to the gym and start so little is so hard for me.
I get it.
The first thing I want to do is get in there and try to do what I was doing, and like my body's not physically capable of that anymore. And I know that in my head, but once I'm in there, I feel like, oh, you can do this. And then the next day I can't fucking move. And
I absolutely get it. I feel like that every spring when I start walking again, like my mind's just like, start sprinting, dude. Like, you did this last year, you could do it again. And then I can't. And then eventually a month in, I'll be in the middle of walking and I'll get this burst of energy out of nowhere, and I'll start fucking jogging for like a half hour, 40 minutes. And then the back of it, it's like, it's my mind is telling me, you got this, you can do this, push through it. And then when I'm done, like I feel, oh dude, there was like a straight month and a half where like when I walked, it felt like I had ruptured muscles in the back of my ass going all the way down my leg. Anytime I walked, I would feel it. I'm like, I do got to take it slow, but like it sucks. It's a catch-22, because as I get older, I detest being fat. My entire life I've been fat, and you've seen me at my heaviest, and for most part, I never had a problem with it until I started getting healthy. And once I started getting healthy, I realized how much better I felt without that shit on me, dude. And like you, I had that close call with death, and as soon as I got out of the hospital, I was like, I'm going to bounce back. I'm going to get this, and like. I worked out all summer, but not to the level that I did the previous 3 years. The last time you and I streamed, 2021, that year I got down to the lowest weight I've ever been, simply by just jogging and running. And I got down to 218 pounds. I wasn't that light when I graduated. I was like 230 when I graduated.
Right. And when I got to my lightest, I was at 141. I don't think I'd been 141 since middle school.
Dude, I have pictures. Oh, dude, I don't think I've been 141 or one. I don't remember being in the 100-pound range maybe since I was like 12, 13.
And right now I'm sitting at like 275. Like, I am fucking fat.
And I'm actually 260 right now. And it's this last week I've been, like I said, I've been in my apartment. I have been working. And before my mom and dad went to Detroit, my mom gave me a tub of Christmas cookies. And I went. I did a live stream where I killed a 12-pack of Labatt Blue, and as soon as I got done, I went to that thing and I just inhaled every cookie. And I'm like, at the end of it, I was like drunk, a little drunk, and I'm like, totally worth it. And then like the rest of this week, I'm like, not worth it at all.
So I got a meme yesterday. Somebody sent me, it was Instagram or whatever the fuck it was. I can't keep track. And it was, what's the fattest thing you've ever done? And the guy's like, so. I know my answer. Morning, I know your answer too. I was there, and that led me to this. But he's like, I woke up, and on my way to work, I hit every hotel and got free breakfast. He hit 5 hotels, free breakfast on his way to work. And he's like, and then he said, and we listen and we don't judge. And I thought immediately to you saying, man, come on home. I got a cake baking. And
we listen, but we don't judge. It's my favorite reel.
Oh God, I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
See,
and immediately I thought of the cake batter.
As fat as, and that was like that was one of the fattest things I've ever done for sure. But when I think of the fattest thing somebody's ever done, I think of the story you told me, the guy you worked with.
Oh yeah,
who went to Wendy's? Was it Wendy's for the fries or the chili burger?
He went to Wendy's for the Frosty. He went to McDonald's for the fries and Burger King for the fucking burger.
A trifecta for lunch.
Trifecta. Yep. He was also the same guy who they caught him passed out eating a jar of just gravy. Just a fucking spoon and a jar of gravy.
We're talking about this now, and I'm starting to remember things that I'd forgotten when I worked at Sonny's Barbecue. I worked with some obese black dudes, like David Blunt's Biggie-sized black dudes. And there was one guy, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but I remember it was a common occurrence to walk into the cooler to get a box of fries and see him passed out sleeping on a box of fries. He was so heavy, he'd go into the cooler because it was so hot in the pit cook. And he'd go in and he'd rest down, but he was so big that he'd just fall asleep on a box of fries, like at a moment's notice at the drop of a hat. It was wild.
Oh man,
dude, I have a photo of me at the lightest I've been when I lost all that weight. It was with a friend of ours that Paul and I met at Alice's house, the lady in chat right now, Alice Always. We went to her vow renewals a couple years back. They were people we met on Twitter, and when I met Forrest's mom, Jessie, I took a photo with her, and that was when I was like 218. I look at that photo still, and I'm like, that looks like a completely different human being. Because now I saw her, we went and saw Creed with her in July, and she's like, "You've got boobs now," and I'm like, "Yeah, I know." Like, don't remind me.
Yeah, I get it, dude. It's a constant struggle for me because I work in weird shifts and sleep like 3 hours here, 3 hours there, and then pick up my kid. Like, I have really weird time frames. And when do I want to actually go do something versus when do I have time to actually go do something?
I get it.
I did get to see Nosferatu on Christmas Day.
I saw your post about it. I found a copy, but not one that I want to sit through and watch. That's a movie I think I want to see like as clear as possible based on the trailers and footage I've seen.
Beautiful.
Honestly, I honestly had no desire to see it simply because I've seen the original, and I get why it's important as far as like film and the history of film, but it never did anything for me. And now I like not just your thing, but like every review that's popping up or people that I know that are seeing it, like this is like easily one of the best movies I've seen all year. Like you have to see it. I'm like, okay, now I'm gonna watch it.
Eggers did an amazing job with it. I think one thing that held me back a little bit is knowing who the cast was originally supposed to be. And it's nothing against Lily Rose Depp, but I kept thinking of how Anya Taylor-Joy would have played the part. And that kind of kept distracting me. Hey, man, I've owned Furiosa for a year, and I still haven't watched it.
It's fantastic. Furiosa is a movie I think really went under a lot of people's radars, and it's unfortunate because it's just as good. I take it back. It's not just as good as Fury Road, but it's pretty goddamn close to being as good as Fury Road.
The only thing I've noticed from the little bit I've seen is the color grading is way off. Like, it's way shinier.
Yeah.
And I don't know why they didn't just run it through the same filter they ran Fury Road through. Like, it seems like an easy enough thing.
The
color grading in Nosferatu is top notch. The atmosphere is top notch. Willem Dafoe has a line which I posted on Twitter, which is by far my favorite line in the movie. I literally laughed way more than I probably should have and bothered some people. But at the end of the movie, everyone was like chilling and most people loved it. And one guy, 3 rows in front of me, stood up, old guy, and he's like, "That stunk." And he just walked out of the theater.
That was like the first time I saw Army of Darkness. I wanted to see it so bad. And the weekend it came out on VHS, I went to my mom and pop video store that I rented tapes from, and they only had one copy, and it was rented out. And I was crestfallen. And as I was getting to walk out, this old guy walked in with a brown cassette box, and he threw it on the counter. He's like, "That's the worst goddamn movie I've ever seen. If anybody wants to rent that, tell them not to. It sucks." And I looked at the lady. I'm like, "What movie did he bring back?" "Army of Darkness." I'm like, "I'll take it." I'm like, "Give it to me." I'll take it. And it was awesome. It's not my favorite of the series, but it's not my favorite of the series, but it's a great movie.
Yeah. So speaking of movies, we're here to talk about Chasing Amy.
Yes, we are.
So,
before we get into that, because you brought up Nosferatu and Lily Rose Depp, I wanted to say I do want to see this movie. I didn't really know other than Skarsgård. I didn't really know who was in it, and when I saw her in the trailers,
you thought Yoga Hosers?
God no! I've seen it once. I'll never watch it again.
I'll never watch it again either.
I love Kevin Smith. I genuinely love the man as a person, but I'm at the point in my life where I have no problem admitting things that I don't like that by people that I love. That's one of them. Clerks 3 is another one of them. 4:30 movie to a degree. It's entertaining, but it doesn't feel like a Kevin Smith movie. That said, looking at Lily Rose Depp in the trailer for Nosferatu, the first thing that I thought of was if the Pirates of the Caribbean trilogy, the original trilogy,
Right.
If Keira Knightley and Orlando Bloom had a daughter instead of a son, Lily Rose Depp would have been perfect to bring back as the daughter. She's a spitting image of like a young Keira Knightley. It's in Nosferatu particularly. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, the cast was great. The cinematography was great. Felt like there were a couple of things in the film they just kind of kept beating you over the head with, and I'm like, okay, we get it. She's convulsing. Yep, sounds like she's coming. We got it. Like it's that happens at least like 5 times, and it's almost always from the same angle. And it's like, dude, we get it. Move on with the story.
Somebody posted a screenshot of her and Willem Dafoe next to each other, and then somebody in that same tweet posted a screenshot of Dafoe and Johnny Depp in Platoon, and it's like a very similar looking shot. It's like this one was filmed this many years ago, and this one's with his daughter this many. It just kind of neat shit like that. Skarsgård.
Okay, so Skarsgård.
I'm curious as to how. I haven't seen what he looks like in the makeup or that. Man. I'm curious as to if he just looks like himself bald.
Do you want me to tell you?
Yeah, well, I don't care. I mean, I'm going to watch it regardless.
All right, so spoiler alert.
He's a vampire.
He's a vampire, and he looks nothing like you would not know it was him at all. Between the voice and the makeup, what he does look like is either a Granado from Resident Evil 4 or the dude who's chasing you in Resident Evil 7 inside the house. Big mustache.
Oh, the father, Jack.
Yeah.
Jack. I remember Jack.
Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? The mustache completely threw me out, and he's got like a little bit of hair, like a comb over. It's very odd.
Huh. I'm gonna check it out.
He's really, really tall in this movie.
I had forgotten all about Resident Evil 7. I mean, I played it, beat it, got it out of the way, and I tend to do that with games. I just forget, but until you said it, like Jack was terrifying. That was unnerving playing that game, just trying to find keys to get out of the garage, man, and him chasing you around.
I fucking hated that garage.
Dude, I bought I have the original one, but I got the PS VR 2. I returned it the next day.
I thought you might.
Yeah. It's an impressive piece of equipment. It's unfortunate that all of the VR games that I currently have for the VR 1 are not compatible with it. That really was like the breaking point for me. Yeah. But I did dick around and play a little bit of Resident Evil 8 VR, which it's hard to argue. VR is a cool experience, but as somebody who plays games for 4 to 5 hours in a sitting, I can't see myself doing that with a headset and control. I put down Resident Evil 8 after like an hour, and I had a little bit of a headache, and I'm like, cost analysis. Do you need this? No, you experienced it. You can get your money back with the receipt. Take it back. Like, it's just unnecessary.
I wouldn't keep it, but I pulled with my
you can't.
I cannot do it anyway.
Yeah. I forgot about that. I just pulled the VR 1 headset out. I cleaned it up, and I've got the adapter for the PS5. I'm like, hey, if I want to play my games now, I have a way to play them, but I don't need to keep the VR 2. I will say it is kind of neat putting it on because it has built, instead of using the camera bar that the VR 1 did, it has built-in cameras on the headset. So when you put it on and you're setting it up, it's kind of neat because it'll almost like you're in the game Tron. Like, it'll look at your living room and you can see it like in this cool infrared kind of setting color. And like it maps your entire room out and your walking space. So like if you're playing a game and you're about to bump into a bookshelf, it'll softly vibrate on the headset and tell you which area to look at. That's kind of neat, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot like 3D televisions. I think it's going to be cool for a lot of people at first, and then quickly it's going to lose. It's just going to fade away.
Yeah, it's never held any interest for me. 3D movies never held interest for me.
Me neither.
I did go back and watch Interstellar in IMAX, and it was absolutely worth it. I was so glad I got to see that in IMAX.
I want to see it now. I wanted to see it in IMAX. The closest IMAX we have is 4 hours away in Milwaukee, and that's a movie Paul and I would talk about a lot, wanting to do for a classic movie rewatch. It's such a good movie.
Well, Anytime you're down for that, let me know. I'll jump in on that one.
Oh, fuck yeah, dude. Maybe. Well, that's the thing is we don't get a choice. We do a poll and let.
I know. I've voted on your polls, and I'm always outvoted.
How the fuck, dude? I'm always outvoted. How the fuck Hunt for Red October won over Scrooged is beyond me. It's beyond me. It's the most boring fucking movie I've ever sat through. I mean, it's an all-star cast, but it's boring as shit. And it felt like, I told Paul, I'm like, watching that movie at the beginning, I know why it won and why it got nominated, because we were on a Sean Connery kick. Paul never saw Highlander, and then he watched Highlander, and we got into Sean Connery in a big bad way. But it felt like watching Valkyrie with Tom Cruise, where like the movie starts out, you see Sean Connery speaking in Russian, then he just goes into a Scottish accent for the rest of the movie. Kind of like Tom Cruise speaking in German, and then just immediately goes into English for the rest of the movie. It's like, dude, like, ugh. Shit. I was going to say something else about a movie, and that's me. It'll come up later. I'll remember it at some point. But we are here to, like you said, to talk about chasing Dogma.
Nope, chasing Amy.
Chasing Amy. Holy shit! You know why I said that? Two reasons. One, I am a little stoned, but two, Kevin Smith wrote a graphic novel that he put out with Ani Press back in the early 2000s. I want to say maybe even mid 2000s, called Chasing Dogma, and it bridged the gap between Chasing Amy. No, it bridged the gap between Dogma and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, where you got to see where they went after Mallrats with the monkey, Suzanne. But yeah, that's why I said that. I'm sorry. Chasing Amy. Would you like to start? Because this is actually this episode, this 3 years later episode is because of you. Realistically, you reaching out and telling me about the documentary, and I realized I had all this time off, and I'm like, I would like to. We should do a stream and talk about this. So that you're the reason why this came to be, buddy.
So I found out about it a while ago.
What's up, First Shot? Sorry, people in chat.
I was very curious about a documentary about Chasing Amy, and then the director Sav Rogers, the things that he reveals and happens to him over the course of the time was quite fascinating to me. From not being able to talk about their sexuality, and then slowly tracking down how to get in touch with people, and then they did the TED Talk, and then that blew up, and having Joey Lauren Adams and Kevin Smith speak about it.
That was cool.
And then willing to be on camera, because when you watch the film, I thought, okay, Joey's not going to be in it. This is the way it felt to me. And when you see the interview with Joey, man, that interview was raw as fuck.
Yep.
Like, raw as fuck. Like,
I don't want to do another bullshit Chasing Amy interview.
Yes, dude. And she unloaded all of the hurt she had from that breakup all right then, right there.
And not just the hurt, but everything that was going on at the time with Weinstein and Rose McGowan.
Yep. All the things we'd never heard about. You know, we've always heard, like she said, Kevin Smith, it got tied up in a pretty little bow for him. But she carried it around. And knowing that the film was based off something happening with Scott Mosier, mixed in with his own inadequacies feeling with Joey,
I didn't know that
the whole movie. Nobody did.
I never knew Scott Mosier had such a role in that movie, nor did I realize that the chick that it sparked with was in the movie as well.
Yeah, and looking back, obviously, Chasing Amy was clearly told from a white heterosexual male's point of view.
True.
Think that's fair to say.
It's fair to say. But go ahead. Sorry.
I think in Reboot, he really acknowledged the age of that.
Oh, I totally agree.
You know, and I think, you know, because from a lot of LGBTQ people, it was, straight white man can change you if you find the right one. And that's how they looked at it. And if I were in that scenario, I would probably look at it the same way, you know? Like, it would have been problematic for me if I were that person. But for me, watching it as a straight white male, I was just like, okay. The thing was, Joey never mentions that Alyssa is bisexual. It's always lesbian, because no one really talked about bisexuality.
But when you hear the stories of like finger cuffs or the fact that she's
Right.
with Affleck, like you get the sense that like, oh yeah, this girl's not always been gay, and she might not be completely 100% gay now. I also, I didn't mean to cut you off. I apologize, man. I also just never. It's fair to, like you said, it is fair to say that it's written from the perspective of a straight white male. However, like you said, I would also argue that this movie came out in 98, 97, 98. Because I saw this at the go ahead.
96 or 97, I think.
96, 97. I saw this opening weekend at the Edison 8-plex across from the mall. I saw it with two girls one girl that I was fooling around with in high school, and I was the only one that was old enough to get tickets. So I bought us all tickets. And I think it's safe to say, much like you throughout most of my teens and 20s and even, well, not, I wouldn't say 30s, but certainly my teens and 20s, I was a hopeless romantic. So I never looked at that movie as like from the perspective of a straight white man, even though you could certainly look at it from that. Although I would argue there's plenty of different characters and personalities and sexualities that you can also pick apart in that movie. But at the time, it spoke to the hopeless romantic in me. Like I didn't see it so much from a gay perspective, but then again, it's not my job to, because I'm not a gay man. I can certainly understand a point of view and hear somebody's story and sympathize with it, but I'll never understand what it's like to live that life. Correct. Now, that said, I also acknowledge that movie was also a gateway for, I mean, moving to Florida from where I lived in Michigan was not just moving, but the movie itself and other things were like a gateway for me into the gay life or the gay lifestyle or gay clubs. Like up until that point, I knew nothing about it. I knew gay people existed, but I'd never seen them. I'd never interacted with them. Chasing Amy like gave me a setting where I could see different perspectives and I could appreciate the humor. And I'd be lying if I said I didn't identify more with Banky in spite of how horrendous he was. Like his sense of humor, his personality was I think to a degree, still very much my personality in some ways, just not the hateful shit that I say shit like that, but I don't say it to people with the intent of offense. And I certainly don't say it to people willy-nilly. I say it to people like you or John or my brother, you know what I mean? Like your friends. And I've never said anything like that with maliciousness or intent, but I do feel like that movie was like a microcosm window into like, oh, there's other ways people live their lives other than what I've been raised to think. And I get it. Like you can thrive in life any different way that you put your mind to it. Some people just, you know, they're different. And watching this documentary, I think much like you, like I never saw it through the perspective of a gay person or a person of the LGBT. It's hard for me to say LGBT because I feel like trans is such a different thing from LGBT. I keep saying it because it's just part of the nomenclature, but I never saw it from that perspective until watching this documentary and hearing people talk about the different characters and what their first impressions were of them. And you know me as well for as long as you have to know that like I also very much in this movie, looking back on it now, was completely misguided, but I also felt at some point in my life like Holden McNeil. Like this.
Oh, I know exactly what you're referring to.
This movie for me is very much this was it the saying life imitates art or art imitating life. Like it, yep. For me, exactly what it really was. I fell in love with somebody who all of my friends. I fell in love with a girl that was a mutual friend of a bunch of mutual friends that I met while working at the movie theater. Some of our friends came as a group and they wanted to see a movie, and I got them into it. And I started talking to this particular girl that was in the group that I just met that night. And I was immediately attracted to her. And I loved her personality and the music that we were talking about, the movies and shit and art in general. And everybody that was mutually friends with us all pulled me aside. Like, I know it looks like you guys are getting along really well. Do not get your hopes up. This girl is not into guys. She's not going to date you. And I never put it into my mind. Like, I just liked hanging out with her. And then eventually we fell in love, you know, and I don't think I've ever like in depth talked about Chasing Amy with her. I know there are certain movies that like I love that she just detests. Like I saw Sin City with her in the theater, and I remember coming out thinking to myself, that was one of the coolest things. Reading the comic books, like I love that movie, and I remember her looking at me and like, I thought that movie was garbage, and I'm like, oh man, I don't know how to deal with this difference of opinion now. Oh yeah, well you had a different past that like I remember just being a dick about shit like that. Devil's Rejects was another one she hated,
and that's the thing. Like when to find out that the scene in the hockey rink was based off of Kevin's own insecurities and him prodding Joey like that in real life. I was like, God damn, dude, like, I didn't see that coming at all. You know, like, that took me completely by surprise.
What I thought was funny is they didn't really dive into it, but they both said like I was insecure about how many times she's been to Belize, and I'm like, why? Like, you're a dude from New Jersey. Why?
She went to Bali to escape.
Bali. That's what it was.
Like, after their breakup, she went to Bali, and that pissed him off or whatever. And it's like, look, man, people deal with things a different way, and everyone has a past. And the line in Chasing Amy is stupid guy bullshit. You don't want to know, but you need to know. You know, all guys are like that. We don't really want to know, but in your brain, you're like, well, I kind of need to know this. And
we're portrayed as knuckle dragging meat eaters for the most part. Like, that's the role of a man throughout history. And the reality is there's a reason why we have a men's mental health awareness month, right? In spite of the fact that, like, we come off like dopes and thugs and cave people. Like, we do have feelings and emotions. Like, we're not completely indestructible monsters.
Growing up, when we grew up, we weren't. It was not okay to talk about your emotions to your family growing up. That was not a fucking thing.
Bottle that shit deep down.
Bury it, and bury it. And my therapist is like, your father tried to get you to kill him. I'm like, yeah, that was a Thursday. And he's like, we need to really talk about this a little more, dude. Like, I think you have some past trauma that really needs to be worked on.
I think we all do. I think it's funny you say that, because I do think about therapy a lot. Like, I don't think I'll ever go, because I don't think I'll ever be fully honest with. I've gone to therapy and I immediately quit, because like, if I can't be honest with myself, how am I supposed to be honest with somebody who's hearing all the darkest shit? You know what I mean? So it never clicked for me. Not to veer off that topic, but I want to say First Shot is in chat. I know you don't have chat up, but First Shot is a guy, he's been on the show. He's a friend of our show, and that he's a good dude. But he wrote in chat, my commie dar is going off. Doug, is this guy a commie? I'm just glad Johnny isn't here. Johnny the Wop isn't here to hear this. I didn't care for the movie, but I'm here to support Doug. Doug, don't let Bob turn you commie. Bob's not a commie, buddy. I promise you. Bob's not a commie. If you get into a fucking fight, Bob's the one you want in your corner.
Yeah. Generally speaking, yeah.
Really? Like, a legitimate fucking throwdown fight, that's the guy I want to call. Bob's no questions asked, where are we burying the body?
Yeah, I'm the Jeremy Renner character in fucking The Town.
Oh, I love that. I love that movie. I love Jeremy Renner. Dude, have you seen Kill the Messenger with him in it?
I have not. I was going to ask you if you watched It Ends With Us by any off chance.
It Ends With Us. The movie sounds familiar. Who's in it?
It's got Blake Lively, and it came to my mind because of The Town.
Have not seen it, but I'll look into
it. So it was kind of advertised. I'm not going to... Fuck it, I don't care. So it's advertised as like this movie to take your girlfriends out and have popcorn, and it's a great chick flick.
Like The Notebook.
Right, but it's like Sleeping with the Enemy on steroids, dude. It's like abuse, just horrible shit. And
maybe I'm gonna
God.
Maybe I'm gonna stay away from that
in the house, and I was like, fuck my life, dude. I'm just sitting there like,
I think I told you this recently. Like, there are movies that like I've loved at one point in my life, but I can never watch again because I'm just not that person. Like Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is a perfect example. It's a phenomenal movie, deserving of everything it ever gets as far as praise goes. Phenomenal soundtrack, cast, well written. But that movie like broke my heart. The way the relationship that ended around that time of that movie's release broke my heart. So like, there's certain things like that I can't go back and watch. And there's certain things that I just don't want to, like, as I get older, subject myself to, in spite of the fact that I might find it to be entertaining. Like doing this podcast, this other show I do, Movie Goons, I really do have to white knuckle it through a lot of stuff I don't want to sit through. Like last week I had to watch Bill Goldberg as Santa Claus in Santa's Sleigh. Dude. Like there's just so many movies that like that Blake Lively one you're talking about, where it's like, I'm sure it's a great movie, but like the way as you started describing it, I'm like, I don't want to sit through that at all.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it. It's rough. It's not a quote unquote enjoyable film. I think there were some redeeming moments in the film, but the whole idea of It Ends With Us is referencing breaking the cycle. But fuck, dude, like you could have advertised it a little bit differently and kind of helped some people out. Like there's a lot of women and men who have been in very abusive relationships. And going into that movie, I'm not a trigger warning person, but some of the people might have needed that for that movie. Like it's fucked up.
I think there's a couple of movies like that. Manchester by the Sea could have been a little bit more well detailed before coming out to give people an idea of what that was going to be.
Yep.
And The Lovely Bones. I mean, I read the book before Peter Jackson released it, but I think a lot of people went to go see that movie because Peter Jackson made it and didn't realize it's a movie about a 13-year-old girl getting murdered by a pedophile who rapes her, and then the story is told by her ghost. Like, it's not a fun movie. It's not a fun book.
It's not like, yay, it's not that.
It's it's literally it, because I think the course of that story, I can't remember what they did in the movie, but in the book, it takes place over the course of like 15, 20 years. And you're reading, the book is told from the narrative of her spirit, tracking the pedophile over the years of what he's doing. And like the whole movie adapts the book as like, not only is she seeing that, but she's literally living through her family, grieving her loss and not having any answers. It's like, that's the whole movie. Like, if you want to sit through it, I mean, visually, I'm not going to argue. It's Peter Jackson, but it's a depressing as fuck movie to sit through.
Another great movie that's really depressing, Blue Valentine. You know,
a tremendously depressing film,
but horribly fucking depressing.
But that's also David Lynch. It's a up or down with what you're going to get from him. I mean, you can kind of guess most of the time it's going to be odd, weird, and artistic in some weird way. I think Twin Peaks might be the only palatable thing he's made for like a mainstream audience.
And even that's pushing mainstream to the limits, you know.
I mean, if you go by the first season, I literally just pre-ordered the Blu-ray set that's coming out in February that has all 3 seasons plus all of the movies and European pilots and shit. If you go based on the first season, it sucked everybody. It sucked my mom and dad in. That became family watch night for us.
Oh yeah.
But then you get into season 2 where like the studio and the network wants him to reveal the killer and it just ruins it. And then Showtime says 20 years later, let's give him a 3rd season and let him do whatever he wants. And it's like the furthest thing from what the first 2 seasons were. Right. It is so batshit weird. But he's another filmmaker like that. John Waters is too. John Waters. Yeah. I mean, my mom and dad we were talking about before they went to Detroit. Hairspray was another family movie that we rented from the video store and loved as kids. And I was telling my mom's like, I love Divine and I love Sonny Bono and Debbie Harry. And I'm like, I love them all too. I'm like, you know, what's funny about this movie? Have you ever seen the filmmaker's other films? She's like, no, did he make a lot of them? I'm like, he made a ton of them. Some good, some downright just awful. His first
movie. You didn't ever watch Pink Flamingos, did you?
Oh, yeah, I did. Dude, I saw Pink Flamingos when I was 13. And I was telling my mom, I'm like, you love Divine in this movie, right? She's like, I love Divine. I said, Divine was in every John Waters movie up until Divine's death. His first movie he ever did was a movie called Mondo Maniacs, I think. And then Pink Flamingo was like the first mainstream theater run movie. And I told my mom, Pink Flamingo, I can't describe the story because it's all over the map, but there's brother-sister incest, and it ends with Divine eating actual dog shit after a dog shit it out on camera. My mom's like, no. I'm like, dude, it happened, Mom. Like,
yeah, really happened. Yeah, that's real.
That's a movie. That's the ending to a movie.
So, what would you say has been your favorite film you saw that came out this year?
I really, off my stone brain, I'd have to look at a list of what's come out because I don't go to the theater anymore. Like I literally just watch shit at home.
I very rarely go to the theater now.
The last movie I saw in the theater, I will say this year was with Paul, was Deadpool and Wolverine. And
Deadpool and Wolverine was great. Well, it was it was a lot of fan service. It was what I expected the movie to be.
That's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, it was what people wanted. The movie that caught me off guard, and I wanted to see it since I saw the trailer, was My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza.
And see, I saw the trailer for it. I'm not an Aubrey Plaza fan, though.
What made it? So the basic premise is young girl takes mushrooms. Her friends
I'm listening.
Freak out. And then, so she's sitting there shrooming, and then she looks over and Aubrey Plaza's there, and that's herself 21 years later. And, like, they're able to talk through modern technology.
Like, oh, this is like that movie that Frequency that came out cut like 15 years ago.
It's really like she says, if you can give me any advice, what would you give me? And she's like, if you ever meet a boy named Chad, don't date him. And she's like, you can't tell me like what stocks to buy or anything. She's like, I don't know how this time warp shit works, you know. And when you watch it, trust me, dude, I promise you will love that movie.
I'll watch it in good faith. You would
like The Notebook, and I had you motherfuckers crying.
False. John. No, of course I did, but John is the one that didn't think he'd like it. I had seen The Notebook.
Yeah,
I'd already seen it. Like, it's a great. The Notebook is one of the best. I had a girl tell me one time, "Oh, guys who say that they love The Notebook are just trying to get pussy." And I looked at her and I'm like, no. I promise you, I'm not trying to get pussy. I genuinely love that movie. I love everything about that movie. It's beautifully written, beautifully acted, and it's heartbreaking as fuck.
Yep.
When you realize, because you don't understand, like, at least I didn't, for like 40 minutes, I didn't understand what was going on until she had the moment of clarity and recognized them and then immediately went away. And you could see the heartbreak. I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like, fuck. It's a good movie.
Another one that we weren't hanging out at the time was when Everything Everywhere All at Once came out. To me,
I never finished it.
There's parts of that you would only understand once you've lived life and you're past the age of 30. You know what I mean? There's like some heartbreaking dialogue that a 19-year-old me would have been like, whatever. You know? But older me is like, fuck.
Leaping Tiger in chat says Aubrey was great and safety not guaranteed. I'll be honest, like I don't necessarily hate Aubrey Plaza. I really love that self-made porn video that I don't know if she leaked it or somebody leaked it, but I really did like that. I did, however, I mean, obviously Parks and Rec, but I loved her in Legion. That's one of the things I can honestly say I loved her in was Legion. If you've ever seen the 3 season
Legion,
so good.
I haven't seen everything the person has done, but this movie, I don't know, man. Me and Rachel watched it on our 10th anniversary, and it just kind of stuck with me, man.
Chasing Amy? Which one are we talking about right now?
My Old Ass.
Oh, My Old Ass. Okay.
It just, we were sitting in an Airbnb and we watched it, and you think it's going to be one thing, and you're like, whoa, it takes kind of a left turn on you, and it's just really good.
I like movies like that quite a bit, actually. That's why I think I like Bellflower, because Bellflower was marketed as something it didn't really come out to be. Like, it was marketed more as like an apocalyptic movie, but it was really a romance. It was a love story in a lot of ways. Great soundtrack.
Yeah, there's been a lot of great scores and soundtracks this year. The Nosferatu soundtrack is great, but I love cellos and violins anyway, so, you know, I sleep with that shit on half the time, so...
I don't mind it. I definitely have to be in the mood for it, but it is music that I can listen to and be completely soothed by and relaxed.
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Dude. So one of my Christmas gifts for my wife, we're going to go into a straight up fringe sensory deprivation tank.
Dude, please tell me that you're going to try mushrooms or
not
Molly.
Again. Never
Dude,
again.
Try Molly. Dude, I would love to go into a sensory deprivation tank on Molly. I saw Creed on Molly. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I literally saw Creed, Switchfoot, and Finger 11 in Green Bay in July. Okay, now 3 bands I would never go out of my way to see. I made fun of all 3 of those bands when I lived in Florida and I worked at 99X. Okay, Creed was a band that we all shit on throughout high school. Then I turned 4. I think I turned 43, almost died, and then out of nowhere, Scott Stapp started popping up in my Instagram reels. My algorithm started showing me Creed, and I started listening to the lyrics of all the songs that I made fun of, and I'm like, oh my God, some of this shit makes sense to me now. It's wild. Right. And Paul, on a goof, Paul bought tickets for us and our friend Jesse to go see him. And I hit a Molly, and I remember someone's like, when are you going to take it? I'm like, I'm going to take it in the middle of the second act because I want it to hit in. I want Creed to really be meaningful tonight. And I'm not even joking. I took it and I was drinking a beer and everyone like, is it hitting? I'm like, no, it might be a dud. It was like 20, 30 minutes. Didn't feel anything. I'm like, that's okay. It is what it is. I'm just happy to be here. And as soon as Creed came out, their first song was What If? And as soon as they went into the chorus of it, they had pyrotechnics and flames shot out of the fucking sides of the stage. And I could feel the heat. We were pretty close. And I remember like seeing the flames, and I just looked at my brother and I'm like, this is the greatest night of my life. I feel it now. And dude, it was 40 minutes of just pure joy. Like I have cell phone video. I recorded damn near the whole thing. And like, none of it is watchable because you just hear me singing along to every song in the background. Dude, I'm telling you, sensory deprivation on Molly, that would be the best experience ever. It's if I would have discovered that before opiates, Bob, you would have had a completely different roommate. You really would have. You really would have.
So we're gonna go, and the idea is not only is it dark and you're wearing earplugs, the water is skin temperature, so you can't tell where your skin ends and the water begins. And we're doing it as a couple because I'm probably gonna freak. It's in Fort Myers. I can't remember it. Cloud 9 something.
I'm excited to come back to Florida for a week to see all the new shit that you guys have that wasn't there when I left. That's neat that you guys have sensory deprivation places and stuff. That is so cool to me.
It just opened up pretty recently, so we're doing that. I'll be intrigued to see if I freak out or not, because you know me, I get.
But from what I understand, from based on people I've heard who've done that, like once you get in there and you're surrounded by like just nothing, like it becomes pretty peaceful, and you might end up just relaxing. I know a lot of people say they fall asleep.
That's what I'm hoping for. That's why I have earplugs, because my ears hate getting water in them.
I do too.
Also, why the fuck does that person think I'm a commie? I'm so.
First shot. First shot's been with us like pretty much from the beginning. I would say, well, not the beginning, maybe like 5 months into us doing Sibling Revelry. He's a troll. He is the ultimate troll. There was a period where like he like thought like he really pissed me off and like left Twitter over it and came back, and he is like, I've come to realize over the years of doing it, like he is just the ultimate troll, and I take nothing he says seriously. He's a good dude, I know that, but I think the running joke is that I think he's like Dexter, because like I always see him like in a basement setting whenever he's on camera, and it's something that like you'd see Dexter in like a kill room. So that's the running joke, is that he's a serial killer. But
okay,
I don't know, he's just saying shit probably, I don't know. Well, I think based on what we were talking about for chasing it. Well, you and I are also very. I'm just going off of my guesses here based on what we're talking about. Yes, you're a troll, First Shot. You're more liberal minded than I am too, and I think like red state people like First Shot look at that as like just hear the term liberal and think commie immediately. That's the only thing I can think of.
What's hilarious to me is I consider myself a moderate.
I do too, but I think you lean more left, though.
That's a fair statement, but I mean, I believe in the death penalty. I believe in the right to have an abortion. You know, like my beliefs are all over the place. So,
Same.
like, you know, I meet a lot of people that are like, "Oh, you're this or this." I'm like, I'm nobody's target audience, my friend. Like, I'm not. No one has ever been the person that I've wanted to vote for. I'll just put it that way.
And I've been saying this a lot too. No one ever will be. I think I said it last night when Paul and I were streaming. I'm like, no one's ever going to agree on a leader, because that's a shit job that nobody can ever actually do anything with. The only thing they could do is make it a little bit shittier for some of us financially. And as I get older, like I vote with my wallet. That's ultimately the deciding factor for me.
Yeah, as a consumer, I've voted with my wallet for years. You know, if a company doesn't do something I like or support something I don't like, they don't get my fucking money. It's that simple.
And that's the way it should be. That's how you should treat anything you don't like. I mean, it makes no sense to go on rants and get in people's faces. It's like, if you hate it so much, stop fucking. Dude, I haven't watched Disney Plus since the last time I saw when She-Hulk ended. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm done with the Marvel Disney stuff for a while. Like, this is clearly not for me. You know, and I'm just not going to give my time.
I never watched it.
It's bad. As somebody who genuinely read the comics, it's bad.
I watched the Marvels, and everyone hated it, and I didn't think it was that bad.
Didn't care for it, but my
it
gripes.
Wasn't my favorite film, but I mean, I thought it was much better than people gave it credit for.
I think the worst Marvel movie by far. It's one that a lot of people haven't seen. I know Paul hasn't seen it because I kept telling him like who was in it, and he's like, I love that person as an actor. I'm like, you won't like Eternals. Eternals is it's boring.
It looks so bad.
It is a 2.5 to 3 hour art house Marvel movie. It really is agenda filled, and I say that because they don't shy away from stuff, and I don't care what one way or the other whether or not a superhero, a celestial hero is gay or not, but like they went out of their way to like put certain shots in the film just to say, hey, we're progressive, and it's like, I don't need this. That's not what I want from Marvel. If anything, over the last 10 years, I want what you guys did the last 10 years. I want that. I want fun, good storytelling, fascinating characters. Like, you don't have to give me political shit. Like, Captain America is political enough.
I'm gonna bitch some more about Marvel, and this is maybe the commie in me coming out, but the fact that they felt the need to bring back Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom pisses me off.
I'll tell you what. Go ahead. I'll let you go off on your rant.
And then supposedly Chris Evans is coming back as Captain Hydra.
And okay.
And my whole thought with that, I'm hoping that the Robert Downey Jr. thing is a bait and switch to get people into the theater. Because I think it's ridiculous. Like, you can't just keep using the same two motherfuckers to make all these movies. There are other actors in the world.
Agreed. Totally agreed with you. I honestly feel in my heart of hearts that Pedro Pascal shouldn't be Reed Richards, and I think Mads Mikkelsen, in spite of the fact that he was in Doctor Strange, should have been Dr. Doom.
I don't disagree at all. I don't disagree at all. Look,
that's it. Okay.
Pedro Pascal is a good actor. He's a fine actor. How the fuck is he in everything? Everything. Oh, Star Wars. Oh, The Last of Us. Oh, Reed Richards. Come on.
Have you seen, I forget the name of it, the last movie that Nicolas Cage made where he played himself and Pedro Pascal?
Dude, that was my favorite Pedro Pascal role.
It's such a fun movie, dude. I love Nicolas Cage.
Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent.
Yep. Oh, if you've never seen it, audience, I recommend it. It's such a fun movie. Nicolas Cage at the height of his craziness.
How much did you pay for that statue of me? $7,000. I'll give you $25,000. Like, it's so fucking ridiculous.
Look, you're playing yourself. Do you realize you have a history of bankruptcy, spending money on shit you don't need,
dude? And when I watched it, I was looking through my camera roll, and I'm looking at fucking Nicolas Cage's tomb that he built in New Orleans that removed people's bodies.
By far, I've gotten to meet a lot of cool people throughout my life. By far, one of the people I would kill to get on any show to interview is Nicolas Cage. He has made some of the most fascinating film choices. And some of them are really bad. Some of them are so bad they're fun to watch. I'll say it again, Tiptoes. I don't care. It's not a good movie, but it is a fun, bad movie to watch.
Please tell me you saw the bit with McConaughey on Two Bears, One Cave where they watch.
Can I tell you? I'm so glad you brought this up, Bob. So I started my new job right around the time that episode dropped. And I was right when that episode of Two Bears dropped. I had literally just done my first episode of Movie Goons with Troy and White Hotep. And they were asking me, what are movies that you love that you think nobody's seen? And I'm like, Tiptoes is a movie I've seen. We did a double feature. And I said, can I present a double feature option to you guys? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, let's watch this movie, Tiptoes, and The Other Sister. I said, we'll have a little person movie and a movie where we'll have a movie where normal people are playing little people and a movie where normal people are playing special needs people. And we'll just break them down because they're both bad movies, but fun to watch. We watched Tiptoes, and I told them before we watched it, I said, look, this isn't a good movie, but it's a fun, bad movie to watch with a group of people and pick apart, just based sheerly on the talent that's in the movie and what the movie's about. I said,
role of a lifetime.
The role of a lifetime. Oh my God, it was the most insane trailer. I told Troy and Hotep, I'm like, look, before you watch this movie, I need you guys to understand, like, this movie's ruined friendships for me. Like, I've gone Johnny the Wop. Bob and I and Paul and Johnny and I had a podcast called Brothers from Their Mothers, and I think it was Bob started with Notebook. Oddly enough, you guys got to watch this movie. We'll break it down. I think this would be a good topic. And then we each started bringing movies to the group, and we'd watch them and break them down as a topic for the show. And
John brought Rounders.
John brought Rounders. I forget what Paul brought. Something good. I mean, no. God, no. Oh, I don't want to sit through that movie again. I brought Tiptoes, and I remember saying, like, I remember bringing it to the group, and I'm like, look, this is a movie I saw when I was really heavy into opiates and smoking weed in Florida. And it's not a good movie, but it's a movie like you watch it, you're like, I need to know how this movie got made, just based on who's in it and what the subject matter is. So I told Troy and Hotep that going into it, and we watched it. And to my surprise, both of them, like, you're right, it's not a good movie, but I want to watch it again. It was so entertainingly bad. And I'm like, that's what I've always seen in it. Right. The day after we did that stream was when Two Bears, One Cave dropped. And I'm like, I was listening to Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights on Audible. I have his audiobook. And I mean, I'm fascinated with him. He's another one like Nicolas Cage I would love to sit down and have a beer with and just listen to him tell stories. He's so fucking wild. And when I started listening to Two Bears, One Cave, like, it's not a show I listen to regularly. I'm not a big fan of Burt Kreischer. Tom Segura's kind of lost a little luster for me. But when I saw he was the guest, I'm like, I'm going to listen to this just to see, just out of curiosity. And I'll be damned if, like, with 20, 30 minutes in, Tom brings up Tiptoes. We got to talk about Tiptoes. Dude, it was one of the most entertaining. Like, I felt so vindicated. Like, I feel like I got some answers too. Finally,
McConaughey's reaction to it was, he's like, I've never seen the trailer. This is the greatest fucking trailer of all time.
Because the trailer is nothing what the movie is.
No, not even remotely. Like, they bait and switch.
They package it as like a romantic comedy, and that movie starts out as a romantic comedy, but quickly devolves into like all these different weird subplots where, like, you've got one of the greatest actors of all time, Gary Oldman, on his knees playing a little person, going over to Bridget the Midget's house, his ex-girlfriend, who's now like banging the landlord and then banging David Ellen. Like, it's all over the map crazy. And
he's like, and it had a budget, and we showed up to set every day. And
it's so wild. You know what's funny? Rewatching that for Movie Goons that I didn't know about, Tiptoes, and they didn't talk about it on Two Bears, One Cave, but Tiptoes actually has a 2.5-hour cut that was shown at Cannes Film Festival and got a standing ovation, like a 10-minute standing ovation. And the director of the movie was like, just obviously like proud that like people loved it. And the studio said, we got to cut this. If we're going to put this in theaters, we got to make it an hour and a half. We got to make it sellable to people. So they cut a ton of shit out of it. And the director refused to go to the premiere of it, like the actual theatrical premiere, because they cut everything out. They got it a standing ovation. And then the movie that we saw is the movie we got.
What we got.
I want to see the 2.5-hour cut, man. Like, I have to know, like,
curious.
What made an audience give that a 10-minute standing ovation at Cannes?
That's fascinating. I remember Clerks 2 got like an 11-minute standing ovation. Yeah. I don't know, man. Art is so subjective, you know.
It is. It very much is.
There's so many movies that I will love that other people are like, what the fuck? You know,
same.
You know, Leaping Tiger, who's in the chat, me and him were kind of on the same page with Nosferatu. We went together and with one of my roommates and his child, and, you know, oddly enough, the last movie we had all went to together was The Last Voyage of the Demeter, which was also a vampire film. Who knew? So I'd been trying to avoid the Wolfman trailer, and it so happened they played it before Nosferatu, and I'm 100% going to see that in the theater. Did you watch The Invisible Man?
The one with the girl from the one with the girl from Mad Men that came out not long ago.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it, but I've heard it wasn't good. But I also not a fan of The Invisible Man either. So.
I enjoyed the twist quite a bit, and it's the same director, so I'm down to see his version of Wolfman. Just because we don't get very many werewolf movies, and when we do, they're usually crap anyway.
Well, I agree with you on that. I will say, like, I haven't been a fan of like Universal Monsters. I love the original, like Boris Karloff, Frankenstein's my favorite. One of my biggest gripes leaving Florida is I was so fucked up when I left in high that I didn't realize I left my Boris Karloff black and white Frankenstein poster attached to my bedroom door. It still bothers me to this day. I miss that poster. But I love the old Universal stuff. A lot of the newer stuff, like I remember the Benicio del Toro Wolfman, like being promoted heavily when I was actually at Universal Studios, and thinking to myself, this is going to be fantastic, and it was just a complete dud.
What ruined it for me was Anthony Hopkins. Honestly, I thought that was one of his weakest performances he's ever had. That, and they went out of their way to make sure you could still tell it was Tony Hopkins as a wolf. Whereas
I didn't care.
Lucio, you could not tell who it was.
I didn't care for the makeup effects, and I didn't care for the overall story. But in spite of that, like, I don't have like a desire to see new monster movies. That said, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious about Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein that's coming out, because I love him as a filmmaker, and I'd be curious to see what he does with it.
He's one of the greatest filmmakers of our time, and you know, whether you love it or hate it, you can't deny the man's talent.
No. I mean, there's movies he's done that I wasn't a fan of, like Crimson Peak comes to mind.
Crimson Peak again was. Crimson Peak is another film that I thought was horribly marketed. It was marketed as a horror movie, and it's not that. It's a romance.
It's a gothic romance.
Yeah, and I blame that on the studio. Nightmare Alley, I still haven't been able to sit through the whole thing. I own it, but I'm like, I don't have 3 hours to kill right now. And I'll start it, and I'm like, nope, I gotta go.
I mean, you get introduced to like cool shit that he's done, like Hellboy. I would say Hellboy and the Golden Army is better than the first Hellboy, but I really love Pan's Labyrinth. It was the one he did that won an Oscar, with the Fishman.
Shape of Water.
Shape of Water, I really enjoyed. Like, I enjoy his more like offbeat, personally written stuff that's usually in subtitles in another language. Like, I think that's where he shines. And that said, I think my favorite thing that man's ever done was not even a film or a TV thing. It was a book, the Strain. Yeah. Fantastic book series. I think it's a fantastic FX show, although I think the show's a little flawed. But the graphic novels, adaptations that Dark Horse put out, I have all 3 hardcovers. It's some of the best storytelling. That's when I think of like cool vampire shit, I think of The Strain. Like, The Strain is such a well-written vampire story.
So when I think of Del Toro, I think of all the stuff he built and all the years he sat and worked on The Hobbit and then said, fuck it, I'm leaving.
Oh, can you imagine what that would
have
been
been
like?
Such a better film, and it was only going to be 2 films, not 3, because it became such a bloated... There was no reason for three films for The Hobbit.
There's not, but I will say this: like, I can still sit down and enjoy all 3 of them. Like, they're well made.
Like, the CG was so bad that I can't.
Oh, I love them. I love the Hobbit movies actually quite a bit.
As someone who read that book the first time in the 4th grade and loved the cartoon as a kid, and I was hoping it to be on par with The Lord of the Rings, and to me it just wasn't to the same level. It felt rushed, and I don't know, it just seemed off in every way to me.
I love the soundtrack for the Hobbit movies. I love the first Hobbit, when they're at Bilbo's house for the first time and they're eating all his food and they're doing that Hobbit, that dwarf song. I fucking love that shit.
And everything.
I absolutely love that shit, dude. But yeah, I mean, it would have been cool to see what he done with it. But like I said, I'm curious to see what he does with Frankenstein. I'm curious to see what he does with anything, quite honestly.
He is one of the biggest fans of Frankenstein out there. So
it's a great story. It's just, to me, it's only been adapted once really well with Boris Karloff. Everything else has just been kind of crazy. I mean, I don't count the Monster Squad because it's not the traditional Frankenstein, but it's still good.
So you know my hatred of Ray Liotta. So what is your take on the Frankenstein with
Robert De Niro? Sucks. Yeah. It sucks.
Not great. It was not great.
It sucks. It sucks so bad. I'm sorry. I just not to veer off. I just noticed I have both chats. I have Twitter chat open and YouTube. And White Hotep, my co-host on Movie Goons, just joined us. I feel like it's hard to compete with Lord of the Rings in terms of impact, and it's also hard to convince studios to not make it like Lord of the Rings. Del Toro's version would have been better, no doubt. Fucking Hotep is a solid fucking movie watcher, dude.
I'll have to meet this person. We're supposed
to do a Movie Goons episode tonight. I don't know if he's going to be able to make it, but I think we're going 7 Central Standard Time. I could be wrong. I got to get with Troy and look again, but we're supposed to, if you wanted to like get his takes on things, like that'd be a way to do it. But I know we're supposed to break down the movie Rare Exports tonight. I don't know if you've ever seen that. It's a really good movie.
And unfortunately tonight I'll be working, but
Rare Exports, I actually have it on Blu-ray, and it's on Freevee and Amazon Prime. It's a Finnish movie. A couple of years, I think 2016. It's called Rare Exports: A Christmas Tale, and it's about like this poor little village in Finland, and like there's this like German or Russian company that's like drilling on the mountain, looking for something, and they're digging deep. And what they're digging for is the real Santa Claus, like the one of like old myth that like tears kids apart that are naughty and shit, and they uncover them. And I'm not going to spoil it because it's a very original movie. Good. It's only like an hour and 20 minutes, but it's well worth it. The special effects for like an indie Finnish movie, like it's really cool how they make like hundreds of like his little he has like these little Santa's little helpers, but they're not dwarfs, they're like naked old men. And there's like a shot where a helicopter's flying through the mountains, and you just see like hundreds of these naked old Santa Clauses just running through a field, and it looks insane, dude. It's such a cool movie.
That's how I felt when I first watched Troll Hunter.
I love Troll Hunter, man. That's another movie I want to watch with Hotep and Troy, dude. I got that on
Troll Hunter is fucking amazing.
For a found footage movie, they did a lot with nothing, and it came out fantastic.
Right. And what was that? Was it Danish?
Yes.
Yeah.
From Denmark, yeah. Dude, the way the trolls looked in that movie, like you only get brief glimpses of them, but
and that's all you needed, though. That's all you needed.
I agree with you, man. Like, you just need a little bit of effectiveness. Like, if Freddy Krueger or Jason have taught me anything, like, too much, as cool as it looks, like, you can oversaturate it with just showing everything all at once. There's a movie I told Troy about called Digging Up the Marrow. I don't know if you're familiar with Adam Green, the filmmaker. He made the Hatchet series.
I am familiar with it.
Are you trying on a new hat for everybody? Is that your commie hat?
No, that's my Freddy Krueger hat, my friend.
Oh, your Freddy Krueger hat. I didn't see the green. It looks black, but it looks cool.
It's too hot to wear.
Freddy Krueger is another one I'll have to break down sometime, man. Like, loved him as a kid.
I just bought all of them. They had them all on sale on Friday the 13th for $9.
They're great. I can go back and rewatch them and pick out ones that I really love. But as an adult,
1 and 3.
1 and 3 are good. You know what's funny? Troy, oddly enough, is the one that told me like to watch. He said if you're gonna watch the Nightmare movies, watch the Nancy trilogy. And I'd never heard that term. And I said, "What's the Nancy trilogy?" It's 1, 3, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare. He's like, yep. It's fascinating to just watch those 3 movies in succession. And I still haven't done it. But for me, just going off memory, because it's been a while since I've seen all of them all the way through. But from memory, I love Freddy's Revenge. I love the second one quite a bit. As out of left field as that movie is, I really enjoy it for some reason. And I love
the documentary on that, right?
Oh yeah, Scream Queen. Yeah,
good.
It's really good. It's a gay horror movie that nobody really.
He's like, did no one really fucking notice?
Dude, I noticed it all throughout my childhood watching that movie,
right.
And I still loved it. My love for that movie isn't so much the content of the plot or the story. I love the way it's shot. I love the visual aspects. The shot of the school bus in the desert and like the kind of dark hue that they had on the film lens. Like, I love the way that shit looks in that movie, man. But I love the second one. I love all of them in their own right. But for me, like 2 and Freddy's Dead, like I love to a nauseating degree, like everything about that movie, as cartoonish as it is, the soundtrack, Goo Goo Dolls soundtrack.
That movie hit me because Freddy died on my birthday, and it was released on my birthday that year.
That's right, September 13th.
It was on the trailer, and I was like, and it was on the poster, and I was like, all right, I have to go see it. And then I'll go back and I'll rewatch some of the classics. Like I rewatched, actually, I take that back. It wasn't a rewatch. During the pandemic, I watched the first Halloween for the first time.
Jamie Lee
Curtis. Somehow I'd never seen the original.
It's a good one.
It was good, but I mean,
it's not my favorite.
No, it's not my favorite either. But I'm gonna get criticized by everybody for this, and I don't give a fuck. I love 4 and 5.
I do too. Actually, if I'm being honest with you, the reason I love 6, the producer's cut, so much is because of 4 and 5. It's a continuation of that story in the mythology. That's the thing. The first 2 Halloween movies are very much about Jamie Lee Curtis's character and the relationship to Michael. The third one, that's out of as much as I enjoy it as its own film, it's nothing to do with the series. 4 and 5 is the first time where they actually built on a mythology of Michael and why he keeps coming back and introducing these different characters. And 6, that producer's cut, like the ending of that movie is so much better and so much more satisfying when you see what happens and how there's a cult of Michael Myers. But it's funny, like as much as I enjoy the Nightmare in all of these movies we're talking about, like Nightmare in particular, as going on 45, like looking back at it now, like Freddy's Dead in particular, it's like this character became larger than life to the point where I remember going in Toys R Us and seeing a whole aisle of Freddy Krueger dolls and figures and plushies and shit. And I mean, it still is to this day. Like I see Freddy shit in Walmart now.
Let's not forget he was a child rapist.
That's the whole thing. I'm like, they made this guy a fucking cultural pop icon hero, but he's a child murderer and pedophile. Like, it's the most bizarre thing.
To me, that was the only good thing about the 2010 remake is
they really
went into that a little more, and like they could have made that its own movie leading up to the original Nightmare and left it alone. I like Jackie Earle Haley, but he was horrible as Freddy. But
it was
Fred,
a terrible movie.
Great. As Fred, he was great.
He's a great actor. Everybody involved in that movie. I like Kyle Gallner, man. Like I liked him in Red State. I liked him when he was in the Outsider show that was on the oh fuck, I can't think of the network's name. That was the short-lived network. That was music. I mean, everybody in that movie they're great actors. It was just poorly executed, but it was also a remake that didn't need to happen. Like no. I don't think any remake really needs to happen. There are some that are good, but
so I will make an argument for what was it, Michael Bay's Friday the 13th? Because there were things about that
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit.
The fact that they show him using underground tunnels to get around, I liked that.
Paul calls that the Supernatural Friday the 13th because everybody in it is from Supernatural.
He's not wrong. I just bought that whole series this morning.
Paul has tried to get me to watch that show for so long, and I tried the first season, and it's just so lengthy and dense. And I'm like,
it gets so much better. I'll give you my Voodoo log. Oh, you have it. I bought it. I've got all 15 seasons. I've got it. So I got it for $2 a season.
There you go.
Like, fuck it. Why not? Yeah. Yeah. And I don't even remember. I think it was just called the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The one with Jessica Biel. I did not mind that one.
Oh, I love that one. I saw that in a theater. I saw that in a fucking crowded theater at Bell Tower, and I'll never forget the shot of the hitchhiker shooting her head and then the camera panning back from the bullet hole. Everybody in that theater gasped audibly. Like, it was one of the coolest film experiences.
One of my coolest experiences / a scene where I wanted to smack the people in front of me. So when I went and saw it in the theater, these people in front of me,
the remake
had brought,
the new ones,
the remake, with Skarsgård. The very first film, when he appears really big and he's looking over everybody, these fucking assholes in front of you brought like a 4-year-old child. That child was terrified, man. And I wanted to just punch the fucking dad in the throat. I was so angry. Because that kid's going to be fucked up for life now because he saw a 40-foot fucking clown trying to eat his face.
We live in a different world than the one we grew up in, though. And I say that because, like, my last job I had when I started driving bus for that place, one of the kids I picked up was in 5th grade, 6th grade, and had a Pennywise NECA Pennywise figure that he would bring on the bus. And I'm like, you like that? And like, yeah. And there was another kid that same grade that loved Chucky, dressed as Chucky for Halloween. And I'm like, your parents will let you. I mean, don't get me wrong, my parents let me watch wild shit, but like, not to the point where like they'd let me bring figures to school or dress up as these characters. And it's just
my daughter has a Sam figure.
Yeah, but Sam's also a little bit more adorable. I mean, like, as vicious as that character is, it's a much more adorable figure too. You know.
Yeah.
Little tiny pumpkin-headed character.
Yeah.
That's a great movie too. I haven't watched Trick or is it Trick or Treat?
Trick or Treat. Yeah,
I haven't watched it in so long. It's a great movie.
I've got so much Trick or Treat stuff downstairs in my cabinet that it's a little over the top, honestly. I've got stuff signed by Michael Dougherty in there, and
it's awesome though.
Yeah, and it's stuff that I won off of Twitter.
That's
somebody saw my tattoo and they're like, "That's the best Trick or Treat tattoo," and so I won all this stuff from Legendary Films.
That's so fucking awesome, man.
I was like, "All right, cool, thanks." You know.
I want that to happen with Phantasm. It never will. That's
I need to go back and rewatch those.
I just did recently for Movie Goons, and for me they hold up. I mean, I hadn't watched all the Phantasm films in an order in so long, and I went back and man, that first one is so good. Second one's really good. The third one is so much fun. The fourth one buttoned it up. I mean, realistically, I could talk with you about it once you watch it, but like the fourth film really buttoned up the entire series perfectly. And then they made Ravager. Why, I don't know, but that movie's not good at all. It's really a rough.
Say the same thing with all the Hellraiser films. 1 and 2 were good, and then nothing else was needed.
I agree with you, but I would also be lying if I said I didn't enjoy Bloodlines. I saw that in the theater with my dad, and I remember like what's his face from Parks and Rec and Party Down, Leslie Knope's husband in the show. I can't think of his name. Adam Scott. Scott's in Bloodlines. Like that was one of his first roles. But I also liked that movie because it played more on the mythology of the puzzle box and like why the Cenobites were so attached to it and shit. But the first two are phenomenal. And then they just made a slew of straight to DVD movies that were not
God damn it.
good.
Now I need to rewatch Pumpkinhead.
The first one's fantastic. The second one, Blood Wings, not so much. They made a third one. Sci-Fi made like a third and a fourth one, I think. Yeah, did you see the trailer for the remake? They're I don't know if it's a remake or a reimagining, but they put a trailer right before Christmas for Return of the Living Dead, and it's just a teaser trailer. But dude, seek it out on YouTube or on Twitter. It looks really. I mean, they don't show you a lot, but it's so good. Before I lose my train of thought on this one, because I did want to go back to what I was going to say. We were talking about jump scares and being done effectively, where you don't need to show all of the monster. Adam Green, I was going to tell you, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Digging Up the Marrow.
Mm-mm.
Okay, so Adam Green made, I think it's one of his last movies, and it's a mockumentary. I mean, you watch it with the idea that it's real, but it's clearly a mockumentary type thing, a found footage. But it's Adam Green and his partner at their film company, and they're trying to come up with an idea for their next film, and they're just recording each other spitballing in writing meetings. And the guy who played Laura Palmer's father in Twin Peaks, I can't think of his name, he's a great character actor, shows up as this wily, crazy guy talking about like I saw on the internet that you guys are looking for somebody who could tell you about monsters. He's like, there's this place called the Marrow, and he's like, monsters are real. And it's, they take them half-heartedly, but they go along for the journey and they document it. And Adam Green, I don't know the company that he had make the creatures. You see them for literally a split second. I've had to pause the Blu-ray just to see like an outline of what the creatures look like, but they're so cool looking and such a good use of just showing you a little but giving you a lot with nothing. I recommend you watching that.
So that made me think of a shot that. Okay, do you remember The Gate?
I love The Gate. I love both the gates.
Do you remember when everything fell down and they turned into little people and they all run away?
Yep, little demons.
I always thought that was like stop motion. It's not.
What was it? What is it? Like a little puppet, animatronic puppets?
No, those are fucking people. They had two different plates being filmed. One of live action people on a bigger set, and then one of a normal size set projected in the background. VFX artist React broke it down how they did it, and I was like, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
That's awesome.
Like I never knew.
I wonder if it's similar with Army of Darkness, that shot where there's all the little ashes, like pop, like that Gulliver's Travel scene in the cabin. I wonder if they did it very similar to that, because that always like boggled my mind how that was filmed.
Yeah, I always thought they just did stop motion, but no, it wasn't.
So we're at an hour and a half. I don't know how long you want to go. I can keep going, but I do want to finish breaking down Chasing Amy. But I also am curious, now that we're talking about movies and trailers in general, your thoughts, James Gunn Superman.
Okay, let me preface this by saying I don't really care for Superman as a character.
Ouch. Continue.
I think it looks good. I do. I think it looks like it's going to be a good film. I don't think the actor was a bad casting choice. It reminds me a lot of the Reeves Superman. I'll watch it. I look, I never got into it where I was reading about Crypto the dog and all that. Like I just never got that far into Superman. But it was cool to see Crypto show up. I
gotta tell you, like, I just watched on HBO the Christopher Reeves documentary, which I recommend too. Superman, the Christopher Reeves story. It's fantastic. But I was talking about this with somebody recently. Like, to me, Michael Keaton. I mean, I've seen better Batman movies than Tim Burton's Batman since I've been alive. Christopher Nolan, it's hard to compete. But for me, Michael Keaton will always be Batman, just like Christopher Reeve's always going to be Superman. Henry Cavill with Man of Steel came very close, and then the rest of the films kind of just filtered out. But I love Man of Steel. That said, as somebody who did love the comic and read the comic in various iterations and titles, Action Comics, Man of Steel, all the different ones that they had, I was hesitant with this. I mean, I love James Gunn and I have faith in him, but when you hear that you're going to reboot an entire film universe with a new actor playing the character, like, it's a little jolting as a nerd fan. I went into the trailer not expecting to like it as much as I did. And I told Paul, I never in a million years, because Crypto was something from the cartoons and in the older comics. Crypto hasn't really been used a whole lot in the comics that I remember recently. And I told Paul, I'm like, I never thought in a million years I'd give a fuck about a dog in a Superman movie, but James Gunn won me over with that fucking shot. Like, take me home, Crypto, take me home. Like, I'm definitely curious to see it. And I would like to see that movie in IMAX. But yeah, I get it. I get your perspective on it.
Yeah, I was much more Marvel growing up, so I didn't.
And I was much more DC.
Yeah, I was much more. I was Uncanny X-Men. I was Psylocke before she became a fucking ninja.
Yeah, you were a more X-Men guy, and that's what surprises me that you haven't seen Legion, because Legion is so fucking up your alley, dude. It's such a well-made show.
It's on what, FX?
Yep, it's on Hulu. You can get it on Hulu if you got Hulu.
Yeah, I have Hulu. I'll have to check it out. But
3 seasons, really good.
All right, let's talk about some of the worst superhero adaptations.
The worst?
Some of the worst. Obviously, any of the Fantastic Four movies are up there, in my opinion.
I enjoyed Rise of the Silver Surfer for its campiness. I saw that in a drive-in in Naples.
New Mutants was awful.
Is that the one with Anna Taylor-Joy?
Yes, she was great as Magic. She had the one good line in the entire movie. It was supposed to be a horror film,
which it played like.
But then they held it from release for 4 fucking years. I don't understand why they did what they did. It could have been a decent movie, but they fucked it up so badly. I mean, they had a solid cast.
Was that Sony or 20th Century?
I think it was Fox.
Fox? Okay, yeah, it was like right before they dissolved or got bought by Disney.
Yeah, it was one of the last things to release other than Dark Phoenix.
Let's be honest. Like, aside from X-Men, X2, the first 2 Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, they just, until Marvel came along, like, superhero movies really did not hit the mark on a lot of scales. And even like the 20th Century Fox and the Sony ones, like, as much as I can go back and pick them apart, like, I did enjoy seeing like Elektra and Blade and Johnny Storm show up in Deadpool Wolverine. I thought that was kind of cool. Like,
I love the fact that Gambit showed up.
And I'll be honest with you, like, I was excited to see Gambit. I get it's a dream role for him. I just didn't like Channing Tatum as Gambit. I really didn't.
And I get it. I mean, he would not be my first choice, but the fact that he was there just because this movie was never made is what made it so great.
Ooh, I'm about to make a name for myself right here. Did you speak to a dialogue coach at all?
Like, at all? Yeah, and to see Wesley Snipes come back after all of the things that have been said in the press was pretty fascinating.
He looks good for his age too, man. He looks really good.
Yeah,
unless it was CGI.
I don't think so. But, I mean, I do think they're going to beat poor Hugh Jackman over the head as Wolverine until he's fucking 90 at this point.
Till he's 90. You know what? I'd be fine with it. Like, even if he doesn't, like Ryan Reynolds has said that like Deadpool is not going to become a fixture. He'll pop up in other people's movies and stuff, and he'll be in Secret Wars, but he's not going to be like this thing that everybody thinks he's going to be. And I'm like, to me, that's the way it should be. Like, use him and use Hugh Jackman sparingly. Like, if you have to recast Wolverine and get a new one, I'm cool with that. But still use, like, now that you've opened up the multiverse and you've shown that it can be done right, use the characters sparingly, just to have them pop up here and there. Just do a little fan service, you know?
Yeah. Yep. There's not a lot on the way from Marvel that I'm super excited about.
I'm curious about Captain America: Brave New World. I'm not excited for it, but I'm curious for it simply because I enjoyed Falcon Winter Soldier, and I like that kind of story. I like the espionage. When it comes to Marvel, I love the fantastic space stuff. I love the ground level Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Daredevil shit. And I also love that shit. Like, I want to see a little bit of everything, but I like the espionage stuff of Captain America quite a bit.
I'll be looking more forward to Daredevil Reborn than anything else.
I went back and rewatched the first 3 Netflix ones in preparation recently. Still hold up, and I'm with you. Like, I'm excited to see. I liked the one season of Hawkeye that they did and how they incorporated Kingpin. I started watching Echo and didn't really follow through. It just didn't capture me that much.
I didn't finish Echo. I finished wait, what is it? Come on.
Falcon Winter Soldier?
No.
Ms. Marvel?
Yes. I actually enjoyed that. A lot of people hated it. I thought it was a fun show.
I liked the comic book. Didn't like the show. And I strictly didn't like it because they changed her backstory completely. Like, they made it, they used Ms. Marvel and Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings. They used both of those that movie and that show to shoehorn the mutants in, just to get a mention of them in. And it bothered me because Ms. Marvel in the comics is not a mutant. She's an Inhuman. And I get it. Marvel fucked up Inhumans already, but like, now they have a chance to rewrite it, and they're not. It is what it is. Like, that's the thing about comics. Like you said, people are upset about. We were talking earlier, and we never really finished it, but talking about Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Doom, and Chris Evans coming back as Captain Hydra. I understand like people's hesitations and they're just going back to make money. This is how they're going to get it. But I also recognize that as somebody who's read these comics most of his life, that's the point of superhero comics. Marvel and DC especially is the fantastic can continuously be done, especially when you open up infinite Earths and multiple universes. Like, you can continuously retell stories. And the beautiful thing, I think, about Robert Downey Jr. coming on as Doom, in spite of how hesitant I am with it, is in the comics, Tony Stark dies. And then you saw her in Wakanda Forever, but Riri Williams becomes Lady Ironheart, or Ironheart, I think is just the character name, which is a great comic because when Tony dies in the comics, he, much like Endgame, had the presence of mind to record his intelligence and put it into Friday's computer. So when he dies, his AI pops up and it's all Tony. Like, you see a projection of Tony walking around, and it's his mind and his conscious, just not his physical body. And he helps Riri become like Ironheart and help build the suit and shit. And while that story's happening, Victor Von Doom, after the events of Secret Wars and Secret Invasion, I'm struggling to think of his name, that Jonathan Hickman, I believe, is the one that did that storyline, that arc. Victor Von Doom realizes like all of the shit that he's done, and like, he wants to repent. So like, he takes up the mantle of Iron Man. He becomes the infamous Iron Man, and he does it in Dr. Doom's suit, but he's got like Tony's chest plate and shit, and he's trying to honor Tony's legacy. So like, if they choose to do a story like that, I'd be on board with that, and I could see that happening. Chris Evans as Captain Hydra, I am excited about that because, like you said, stories can be rewritten with multiple universes and infinite Earths, and Captain Hydra, it's like an upside down version of the Marvel universe. Like, you, like, because of the time jumps and the multiverse shit, like, you can conceivably see like, oh yeah, we snapped Tony snapped the fingers and set everything back, but like, other universes exist, and Captain America is an evil. Like, I want to see Hydra again. Like, that was my favorite part of the first 10 years of the MCU, was like, I think Hydra is a cool, much like Cobra is to G.I. Joe, it's a cool villainous organization that's cut off one head, another grows back. So like, to see, like, that's the shit that works. And you could tell so many cool stories with it. Like, you don't have to delve into things that just confuse people. Like, I know when they got the Disney Plus deal and they wanted to do WandaVision and all these shows that tied into the movies, I understand the intent, but not everybody is going to have the time to sit down and watch an entire season of a show and then go and watch the movie and try and piece together. Like, thankfully, YouTube exists and people break the shit down for us.
That's kind of what happened with the Arrowverse for me. Like, dude, when they started, like, you have to watch The Flash this week and then catch up on Green Arrow next week. And I was like, all right, never mind. I'm done.
And for me, I get, and I totally get that, but for me, that's the shit that worked for me as somebody who loved both of those.
Never home when they were on, dude. It just.
And you remember me at that time, like that's all if I wasn't at work, I was at home getting high and belly up, doing tummy time on my bed, watching movies and reading comic books. That's how I spent my time. So I absorbed a lot of that stuff, but I think with age, with change of events or whatever, like people change. And for me, it was before I left Florida, but season 3 of Supergirls, where I started veering away from the CW Arrowverse because it started getting. It was less about the stories they were telling, which I loved. And it was more about how do we fit current events into this? And it was right when Trump won. Season 3 of Supergirl is literally the entire season is I said it. Yeah, I'm hoping I used the term correctly because Paul kind of gave me shit, but it's an allegory, I think, of MAGA. Like that's the villain of season 3 Supergirl is an organization. They don't call them MAGA, but it's very much like, hey, these are guys that are voting for the guy that we don't want. Like, that's where I'm like, I got to tune out. Like, I get it. Everybody's different politically. Everybody's charged politically or on different topics, whether it be abortion, sexuality, whatever. I don't want to see it in a show about superheroes. Like, that's where I get to just tune out my real life and just forget about it. Like, I don't need you bringing that to me.
The thing with American Horror Story when it was the season Apocalypse. You know,
wait. Is that the Trump season? Because that's not Apocalypse, if that's what you're talking about.
Which one was it?
The Trump season was Cult.
Yes, Cult, yeah. And
I actually enjoyed that season for what it was.
It was okay. It's not the worst season. To me, the worst is probably Double Feature and then NYC.
I never saw those. Like I tapped out.
Dude, NYC could have been great, but I figured out.
Hey, Carly. Sorry.
I figured out the whole gimmick of NYC in the very first episode. See, and I was like, oh, man. And I you have to wait for the reveal, but I was like, I was right this whole fucking time, you know, and it's kind of
It's funny to think about. There was a time in our lives where, like, you would look forward to watching these different seasons of these shows that were like self-contained stories in a season. And then somewhere along the line, we switched over from network to must-see TV type of thing to like streaming. And like, I think Apocalypse, oddly enough, might be the last season of American Horror Story I tapped out on. And the only reason I watched it was because I loved season 3, Coven, the Witches season.
Oh, that's by far the best season. I've been in that house.
That was my favorite season as well. And Apocalypse tied into season 1 and season 3 of Coven. Like, you get to see where the witches are, where the living witches are still, where they're at in life. And it all ties into it. But it wasn't that good of a season. And then I'm tapped out of it. And then I remember hearing rumblings that like, oh, now Hulu picked up FX and like they're going to do a split double feature of American. Like there's so many different iterations of American Horror Story that like I'm lost.
There are individual seasons and there's self-contained shows called American Horror Stories where each episode is just its own complete story.
Like a Monster of the Week type thing?
Kind of. Like one was just about Bloody Mary, you know, stuff like that.
Gotcha.
And, you know, and those are fun because, okay, 45 minutes and it's over. You don't have to worry about it. And then you move on to the next one. Also, the last season, Delicate with Kim Kardashian, was just fucking horrible. God damn, it was awful.
That's Kim Kardashian. She's done one good thing, and it was a porn tape.
It was so bad.
Made me happy because I knew I was bigger than Ray J. I never would have thought I was bigger than a black dude, but the proof is in the pudding.
Oh, man. Have you watched Totally Killer on Amazon Prime?
Totally Killer. No, I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
Fun 80s style slasher flick that I think you would really dig.
I'll check it out. Yeah. I think the last good slasher flick that I saw was The Final Girls with Adam from Workaholics, Eric Roberts' daughter.
Yeah, a bunch of people. This is kind of like a cross between Scream, Happy Death Day, and Freaky Friday. It's a very interesting little film, and it was a lot of fun.
I didn't mind Happy Death Day. I saw the first one. I thought that was
I
pretty
liked the second one too. They were both fun to me.
I also never saw Sinister 2 because the first one terrified me so much in the daylight that I refused to see the second one.
Sinister 2 sucked, but Sinister 1 is one of my favorite horror films in the last 20 years.
I've seen it once, and I saw it in the daylight in my living room, and it unnerved me so much that I never went back and rewatched it. I know it's a good movie. It's a well-made movie, but it's just so unnerving.
Scott Erickson, who made that, he is just a fucking master, dude.
Hey, speaking of, Ethan Hawke was in that movie, but speaking of movies with Ethan Hawke, like we haven't talked in a while. We both enjoyed The Black Phone.
Mm-hmm.
Black Phone or Black Telephone? They're making a sequel to it?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Why? Why? Why would you do that?
Completely unnecessary.
Agreed. 100%. Dude, now we're talking about original horror movies that have come out that, like, very few things come out that impress me. Have you seen Barbarian?
I have not. I've heard a lot of good things.
Dude, it's on HBO. Seriously, put that on your list to watch. Like, it surprised the hell out of me how much I enjoyed it, because it's one of those movies where it's like, it starts out and you kind of like, oh, I get this. I get what's going on. I get how this is going to play. And it fucking takes turns that you do not see. It's such a good horror movie.
Yeah, I heard similar things about Long Legs, and I haven't watched it yet either.
Same. Everybody told me Long Legs was good, but I have yet to watch that either. I don't know.
I only have so much time, and I'm like, all right.
Yep.
This is what I'm doing with this time. And
oh, fuck. Bringing it back to Ethan Hawke, and my mind just triggered this. Have you seen Moon Knight?
Yes.
What'd you think?
I enjoyed Moon Knight quite a bit, actually.
I did too. I loved it, I would say.
I thought they drug it out a little bit, but was the very last episode where they show the third personality, and I was like, man, now it ends. Like I thought they got Moon Knight right as a character.
I absolutely loved it. It's one of those things that surprised me that they were even making it. And I'm like, Moon Knight's getting his own TV show, because I love the comic. I do too. Yeah. I love the split personality and how they portray it in the comic. And I'm like, I don't know if it's going to play. And I loved it. I thought it was. Yeah. I also like that Halloween thing that they did, that Werewolf by Midnight. I
haven't watched it yet, and I know they released the black and white version of it.
It's really good. It's really
that's
good.
What I've heard.
Yeah,
I literally I don't think I've watched Disney Plus in like a year. Like I have it, but I don't ever turn it on. I forget that we have it sometimes.
Yeah, there's some things I don't like giving my attention to. Disney Plus is one of them. Sony is starting to become one of those things since they banned me for 2 weeks.
Banned you for what?
That's the thing. They wouldn't tell me. I don't have online. I don't play online games. I don't have premium. I just play story games. And what I was doing for the show is I get sucked into games for weeks on end, and I'll record the footage and upload it to my YouTube channel, and then I'll make outros for our show, just showing Paul what I played or whoever wants to see it, and I'll put a song over it. And the only thing I can think of, because this is around the time it happened, is I found a PS4 copy of Deadpool for $50, and I got it, and I brought it home and started playing it and forgot how wild that game was. Like, that game is very R-rated, and I was uploading footage to my YouTube channel, downloading it and then deleting it and just editing it on my phone. I go to open up my PlayStation one day, and I none of the games will load up. It says that my account's been suspended for 2 weeks, and I started looking into it, and I created a ticket, and I had somebody reach out, and they're like, yeah, it looks like you uploaded something that somebody flagged as offensive. And I'm like, I don't see how that's possible, because I don't upload shit to your servers. I upload it to YouTube. And she's like, when you upload stuff to YouTube, a copy of it goes on the PlayStation thing, and if you have your account set to open, anybody can look at your screenshots, your videos, whatever. The only thing I can think of is somebody saw a Deadpool video that I had uploaded, and there's a lot of vulgar shit. There's a lot of tits in that game. That's the only thing I can think of. But they locked me out of my account for 2 weeks, and I'm like, I was pissed. I'm like, I could spend $600 on your equipment, but then you can reserve the right to tell me when I can use it. Like that. So like now I'm just like, I don't know if I want to spend money on. So I literally bought the VR2 back the next day. Like, that was the other thing too. Like, knowing what happened, it really like chapped my ass that I was spending money on it. But the only reason I did it was because it was half off. It was like $340.
Yeah.
I'm like, better than 600, but I got my money back regardless. I have to piss really bad, but I want to talk about Chasing Amy.
All right, so let's finish that up, and then. So,
okay.
What was your overall take on the film?
I enjoyed it as a documentary. As far as somebody who loves, I have the autographed poster Chasing Amy is still on my wall. It's one of my prized possessions. Oddly enough, it's weird to say that as an adult, but it is. It has a lot of sentimental memories for me, meeting him, getting that signature. I thought the documentary filled in a lot of things for me that I didn't know, a lot of backstory. I really enjoyed seeing Kevin and Joey Lauren Adams talk about the movie together and talk about the relationship, and him admitting to just how much of an asshole he was. I really enjoyed that kind of intimate human moments throughout. But very quickly the movie went for me, at least, to me, it started out as a focus on the impact of Chasing Amy and the impact specifically within the gay community. I had no idea how many gay people hated Chasing Amy, and rightfully so. After kind of hearing their takes on it, I get it. But quickly this documentary goes from being a retrospective of the impact of Chasing Amy, quickly to the impact of Chasing Amy on the director and the director's journey as finding out they're gay and then finding out they're trans. And it wasn't a bad story. Don't get me wrong. I don't wish any bad will on anybody involved, but it was one of those things where it's all right, I'm glad I watched it, but I don't relate to it because I'm not a trans person. I'm not a gay person. So
right. I just thought, there was a scene where Kevin kept saying her, and then Sav.
I'm listening. Keep talking.
Sav went off screen and said something about, and then I guess that's when he told Kevin that he identified as trans, and that was one of the first person that found out. And I thought,
Kim was I could tell your voice is different.
Yeah, it was. I thought it was well done. I thought it told the director's story well, because the director's story was very much steeped in Chasing Amy. It was that film they found that let them know it was okay to be gay. You know what I mean?
And it was nice to see.
What was that?
I like the end of the documentary where you see Sav kind of close that chapter of their life. I don't need this movie anymore because I know who I am. I did enjoy that.
Yep, I enjoyed it quite a bit. To anyone who's a fan of the movie or anyone who's offended by the movie, I would say to watch the documentary. And
I would agree with that.
From everybody, Now, my next documentary that I plan to watch is We Were Once Kids, a documentary about kids, the movie.
Harmony Korine's kids?
Yes, they made a documentary called We Were Once Kids, and I'm very curious to see that.
I have seen Kids twice in my life, and I think that's more than enough for me to see. That said, I love Harmony Korine as a filmmaker.
I saw it once, opening night in the theater. We had our IDs checked 3 times by police officers. And that I never had to watch. Well, I watched it one other time. Leaping Tiger was there, and there's
just Casper.
Yeah, it's fucked up, man.
I know that to this day, Paul hates that movie because of that scene specifically.
Yeah, and
it enrages Paul.
The very last line, what the fuck happened? It's a movie that was very much of its time. Chloe Sevigny and Rosario Dawson were both 17 in that movie.
I remember that movie being marketed as a warning to all of the youth of America at the time.
I think it was a warning to parents. This is the way I took it.
Should have been. Certainly should have been.
Hey, your kids, this is what your kids are doing. Kind of like American History X. Hey, this is the reality of this lifestyle.
I love Harmony Korine. He's an eccentric dude, but I love his movies. I really, really love Spring Breakers.
He was banned from Letterman.
Yep, he was a wild guest on that show.
Oh my god, yeah, I watched all 3 of his interviews on there.
Sorry, had to pee in a bottle.
No, I've done it. I do it when I'm driving all the time.
I very rarely do it. In the beginning of our show, I used to do it in a milk jug all the time, and then I started being able to hold my bladder. But since the surgery, I can only hold it for like an hour and it starts to hurt my sides.
But yeah, so I would tell everybody to give Chasing Amy a watch if you're a fan of the film and if you want some of the real backstory as to how and why the movie came about. I would absolutely say to watch the film.
I would agree with that. I would look, if you love Chasing Amy, if you like Chasing Amy, it's definitely worth it just to see like the backstory. A lot of the backstory I didn't know. Like I mean, I had known for years because he's talked about it that it was about his relationship with Joey. I had no idea to the extent, and let alone Scott Mosier's involvement either. Like,
that was never let on. Like half of Holden was based off of Scott. Like it was such a fascinating insight into what they did.
I also really enjoyed hearing the different. I mean, there was a plethora of gay journalists throughout this documentary, and I did enjoy hearing the breakdowns of certain characters, like what's his face,
Hooper
X, Hooper X. I enjoyed like the one journalist was just like, or one guy talking was like, you literally could have just made a movie about that guy, and I'm like, you know what, you could have. Like, I would love to watch a movie about Hooper X.
I'd watch a Hooper X movie.
I'd watch a Hooper X Banky movie since they end up together, but like,
right.
He's been, I've been so out of comics for so long, but like apparently Kevin Smith's been writing a lot of like View Askew comics. I'm like, dude, what a perfect opportunity. Bring back some of the characters that you didn't get to flesh out and like give them their own voice and through comic books. I love that he used to do, he's doing it now, I guess, with Clerks, or I think with Clerks or Jay and Silent Bob, but he used to do it in the early 2000s. Like, I mean, there was tons of Clerks comic books that he would just write. Somebody from Marvel would do the artwork, and they were so good. Like, he would just flesh out so many different backstories. And Chasing Amy, like I said, Hooper X would be one.
That was the other thing they talked about in the film when the director was in Secret Stash and said, so that's the last page, and he's like, yeah, there's the cover. Nothing else was ever written. I thought that was kind of a missed opportunity.
Oh, totally. I still have that frame too, that page of the comic. Dude, Chasing Amy is just, it really is a fucking great movie, man. I mean, in Chasing Amy, like I said, it is fun to see the back stuff that you didn't know about, but it is also, in spite of the fact that I may not agree with everybody, like it is fascinating to hear other people's perspective of who live in that community or live in that life. Like, getting to hear like lesbians and gay guys break down Banky's character, I'm like, this is fun to listen to. Like, it's like I said, I always identified with Banky when that movie came out. Like, as far as like sense of humor and hobbies and interests were concerned, but I never saw it as the repressed homosexual just lashing out until I watched the documentary. Like, and the people kind of like focused more about it. I'm like, oh yeah, that does make more sense. Maybe I am homophobic inside.
Yeah, it's and then. Yeah, like I said, I enjoyed it. It did do. What the fuck is this? Oh, okay. Sorry, I just got a shop update. I'm like, what is coming to my house?
Are you selling stuff on eBay too?
No. I've got stuff. I've got beard oils coming in the mail.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I use a lot of beard oil.
I still have a jar from 4 years ago. I usually let it grow to like this length, and then I shave it all off and let it grow back, and I just keep shaving it, so I haven't used any of my beard stuff.
My barber's like, have you ever let it grow to terminal length? I'm like, no, I have no idea how long it'll actually grow.
Just let it go.
When it was here last time, well, it was longer than this. It was about here. And then I cut like a foot off of it. And
I saw it. How long ago was that?
2 years ago. I cut it off on. I cut a foot off of it on New Year's Eve one year.
I saw something on YouTube recently, like a little mini short doc, and it was like this guy. He's like in his 70s now. Lives in New York. He's one of those weird artsy bohemian type dudes, but like went to Jamaica in like 1967, fell in love with the culture, moved there, lived there, became a music producer, and started growing his dreads out. And he has not cut his dreads since 1967. And they had him in this video being interviewed, and he's just got like these. I mean, he's dressed in like a suit I mean, it looks like it's somebody's white old grandpa, but he has these giant fucking dreads like Roger from Less Than Jake dreads going down to his feet. And he's like, yeah, when I go and I just tuck them into my pockets. And he's got like massive amounts of dreads. I'm like, you're the dirtiest old man I've ever seen in my life, man.
Buckethead's P Sticks, his stagehand, his guitar tech, his everything. His dreads wrap around his waist multiple times. Like, they're ridiculously long. Speaking of dreads, this is the way I'm going to end this show for me.
Oh, okay.
So
you're growing dread?
I got to go. No, yeah, I can't grow anything. So look at where your headband is for your headphones, right? You see it? No, the band itself. Right. You see where that is?
Yeah.
Now look at a picture of Snoop Dogg today. That's Snoop Dogg's hairline. His dread goes from there back.
You're not wrong.
Like, he's got the Steve Wonder hairline dreads. You know, like, okay, my hairline's back to here, but I'm going to keep these dreads. Let it go, man. Let it go.
A recent eBay search of mine, if you pulled up my eBay, would be for the Doggy Style cover. I found like this giant canvas flag, and I want to buy it because I want to hang it up either behind me or I'm above my TV. That said, that's as far as my love for Snoop Dogg has ever gone, was Doggy Style. I love that album. But like when I start going through Walmart and seeing Snoop Dogg collection, I'm like, dude, like you are the whitest black guy now. I know. You really are.
Also, you mentioned Helmet earlier. Do me a favor, when this stream ends, you have Spotify, right?
Yeah. It's the only thing I pay for now.
Load up the new Helmet album. Try to get through the first track and just text me what you think. Now, that's all I'm going to say. It's something.
Yeah, there's a couple albums like that come out every now and then.
Oh, dude. Like, you remember Meantime and Strap It On, those albums, Betty, and then there's this. I don't even know what to call it.
Is that it? Are they trying to be what?
I don't even know, dude.
It sounds like it sounds like Mishka Shubaly meets Tom Waits. It sounds like alcoholic road rock.
I don't know what it is, dude. I didn't make it past the first track. I was driving at like 2 a.m. I was like, no, I can't do it.
Have you heard anything before we depart? Have you heard any of the other than what's been released on Spotify? Any of the new Coheed, Faxis 3?
I've talked to members of the band discussing certain tracks, and one track in particular that a certain member fought to keep on the album because they weren't going to keep it, and then he argued to keep it, and now it's, you know how Coheed's going back to doing suites. I don't know if you saw that. So there's a new suite in this album. Like, remember like the Willingwell suites and
yeah.
So there's a suite like that, and this is the first part of that suite. But it is one of the heavier albums, probably the heaviest album they've ever done.
I've only heard the 2 tracks that are on Spotify, and I mean, I'll be honest, like they didn't really jump out at me. I mean, I'm still going to listen to the album. I'll listen to anything, but dude, I'll be honest with you. Like, it's funny. The day after it came out, John texted me because when Heavenly Creatures came out, I thought to myself, like, a handful of songs in this album that I enjoy, but overall, it's just Vaxxas 2. John texted me the day after it dropped, and he's like, "Have you heard the new Coheed album?" And I'm like, "If John's texting me, then I should probably listen to it," because like John's very critical of Coheed. And dude, like I'll listen to the third one, but like it's gonna be hard to top that second one. That's a damn near perfect
2. Right, that's how I feel about Vaxxas 2.
It's a perfect album.
It's so far out of left field. It's what nobody wanted, and I am the first to be hypercritical of Claudio mixing fucking Prizefighter Inferno into Coheed, and that's what it feels like it's been for the past 10 years. Like, oh, I'm gonna robot my voice and do all this fucking shit and turn knobs behind the amps when I'm not playing my guitar. But I was prepared to hate that album based off of what I had heard from certain people. And then I listened to it and I was like, fuck, this album is so goddamn good.
From beginning to end.
Right. It would. I personally prefer it over Unheavenly Creatures. Like,
I do too.
Now, there are tracks, like The Pavilion is a track that really hits me hard off that album. It just, it's very real, you know? But let me look at the track list.
There's a line on Vaxxus 2, I think on the last song, and it's one of my favorite lines, but it's, here's the simple story, and I hope I tell it well. What was it? Here's a simple story, and I hope I tell it well, of a tale of a boy locked inside. What is the line? I'm fucking it up now. Here's a simple story of, and I'm gonna look it up. It's gonna drive me nuts now. Sorry, guys. It's a great line. Here's a simple story. Lyrics. Oh, by the way, not that you would know, but Amanda Scribe on Twitter, I highly recommend following her. She's the one who gave me Belial and the Faith No More autograph. She's in chat, says, put the helmet on. She's fucking awesome. You would love her, dude. She's into the same shit that we're into. She's cool as shit chick. Who I got to get, if she's still watching, I'm going to get a hold of you this week, Amanda. I'm going to rebook you on the show.
Okay.
Where is that fucking, oh, here it is. Here's the simple story, and I hope I tell it well, of a boy locked in a place, his mind the very cell. Imprisoned with his wild visions of every time and space, there's no one in this world quite like him. That last part didn't really do much, but that fucking line, a boy locked in a place, his mind the very cell. I'm like, God, dude, I can relate to that shit, man.
And my takeaway from that whole thing, that song is about his son Atlas, is the way I look at it. And I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure Atlas is autistic. And I think that's like a lot of what that is about.
I'll be honest, for the last year and a half, I've been telling people I'm autistic. The more I learn about Asperger's, my dad said it to me. My dad looked at me the other day. My dad and I work together now. And he's like, sometimes I think that you're just undiagnosed autistic. I'm like, Dad, I talk about it every Saturday night with Paul. Like, I think I'm autistic. It would make sense.
I think I have undiagnosed ADHD, but...
It honestly, when you look back at shit, like you start to understand things that you like. I didn't know what autism was until I was like 24, 25 when I started dating Julie again, and her son was diagnosed with autism. But like now, like what we know about it, and the more I learn about it, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense compared to like the fact that like I say shit without thinking. Like that's trait of Asperger's. Like a lot of that shit, like where I think I'm the center of the conversation of the room. Like, yeah, I'm guilty of that. Like,
yeah.
I've
definitely been guilty of that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the third album. It's supposed to be a pentalogy. It's supposed to be 5 albums, but at the rate they're going, I don't know that I'll live long enough to hear all 5. Because a lot of Part 3 was recorded at the same time that 2 was recorded.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like half of it was already done.
I didn't know that.
So this is the first one in forever that I didn't buy the deluxe box set.
I have not bought a deluxe box set from Coheed since. Well, I have the Year of the Black Rainbow box set with the book that him and Peter David wrote, and then I also have the Neverender box set. That's the only other one that I think I bought.
Yeah, I have all of them from then on, but this one I'm probably not going to buy just because I don't feel like spending $200. And honestly, I don't even have a CD player anymore, so like
you can get one from Paul.
I buy music digitally. Like I still support all my artists. Like I'll buy music, but then I still end up listening to it on Spotify. Like I have. God damn, dude. Like, realistically speaking, without exaggerating, I probably have 250 to 300 Buckethead albums on my Bandcamp alone.
I still use my Bandcamp from time to time. I have the Anchorite 4 albums on there, and I also have the Drawing Map
demo. They're on Spotify now.
I saw that. I also still use Dat Piff, even though it's defunct, and they don't up the servers are down. But if you had it, like Dat Piff, for anybody who doesn't know, it was a mixtape site. I mean, I listened to a lot of like indie hip hop when I lived in Florida, and there was an artist named XV who's kind of getting bigger nowadays. Like he's doing a solo shit, but like he used to be in a collective called the Squarians, and they put out a lot of great like pop cultural hip hop. Like at the time, Breaking Bad, Sons of Anarchy, like Inception was out, and they did a lot of music like a lot of really cool hip hop music related to like nerd culture stuff. And they released all these free albums on DatPiff, and I downloaded them in my library. And so like if you downloaded shit to your library, in spite of the fact the servers are no longer there, you still have that album. So I'll use that shit. I'll use Bandcamp from time to time because I have other albums on Bandcamp.
I still go on to SoundCloud once in a while and listen to Ronan King's album art.
SoundCloud's the only place I can find the Fugazi mixtape where it's somebody took Fugazi and entered the 36 chambers and mashed them together. It's a phenomenal mashup album. But SoundCloud's the only place I can find that. What's that?
The other day I was driving a guy. It was 3 a.m. And he gets into the car and I'm listening to 36 chambers. I'm like, yeah, sorry, you'll probably never get into another lift and hear 36 chambers again in your life. He's like, this is completely unexpected. And I drove him to the airport, and he was jamming the whole way out.
It's a good fucking album, dude. Enter the 36 Chambers is a phenomenal fucking album. It still holds up.
Yep. So, Wu-Tang. All right, man. Well, it's been fun, but I got to get some sleep before I go to work overnight.
Well, go get some sleep, and I'll hit you up. But maybe like once a month, once every other month, when we get time, we should do this again.
Yeah, man. But listen to that Helmet song. You're gonna hate it.
I already started listening to it. I got to finish it.
No, you gotta, I want a 3-sentence review of that song.
I'll give it to you now. This fucking sucks. Oh, this fucking sucks so fucking bad. Please God help.
Why did they do this? All right, man.
Well, have a good afternoon. Likewise, man. Have a great night. Have a good afternoon. Have a good night at work. Everybody that watched, we have currently 66 people hanging out with us. So
hello,
thank
people.
You guys. Thank you guys. It's been fun. Everybody have a great weekend.
Let me know how much they hate me, and I'll try to do my commie best next time I come on.
Dude, when you learn that, well, this should be easy for you. Just this is how I look at it. In spite of the fact that I've met a couple of them and have interacted on friends level, they're just names on a screen, dude. That's why it's so easy not to take it seriously.
Oh, I don't take it seriously at all, but I want to play into the whole commie thing now.
Dude, next time we do a show, get like one of those Russian balaclava hats, those big muff hats.
I'm looking. I don't think I have any of those in my hat collection.
Have one, have one with the old Soviet symbol on it.
I got a plague doctor pen right here. I don't know if that counts, but
no. Next time you come on, just dress like Ivan Drago. That'll do.
No, what was his name on the WWF? Vladimir.
Oh, Kalishnikov. Not Kalishnikov. I know who you're talking about. It was him. It was him and oh God, the Iron Sheik and Ivan Kalishnikov.
Yeah.
And Sergeant Slaughter defected from America. It was during the Desert Storm. Oh God, it was such a fun time to be alive.
All right, man. Everybody have a great day.
You guys too. Have a good one.
Bye.